get the. What's good, family? Hey, welcome to the Powerful Show, the Doc and Unk Show. Y'all know what it is. Powerful show, powerful decorum, and it's going all the way down. Y'all see the title? Should Afrocentricity be conflated with pseudoscience and anti-intellectualism? Man, that's a great title right there, Doc. You did that. I see how you did.
No, actually, remember I told you earlier I changed it to Afrocentrism. Should Afrocentrism be conflated with pseudoscience and anti-intellectualism? And I said that typically when people think of Afrocentricity, they think of Afrocentrism, and there are arguments that they are different. Okay, there are arguments out there that they are different. And let's backtrack. Well, no, before we do that, gotta holler at the doctor. Peace and love to you, Dr. Saul Winkler. How you feeling?
Peace and blessings, family. Whole chat, all the things above all those things. Peace and power.
Peace, Brother Reggie. Peace and love to you, Brother Reggie.
Peace and love to you and to Dr. Saul, which I'm going to meet. I'm not as familiar with him as I should. And of course, Uncle Keck, the God Killer. This is going to be a very important talk, very insightful, I believe, on well, I'll let you introduce what we are going to talk about. That's more proper.
All right. And I definitely want to first and foremost shout out Professor Dave, man. Professor Dave gave Ankh and I a beautiful shout out on one of his videos he dropped last week. And he came on the platform. He came on both of our platforms and again gave us a huge, I do hear some feedback. I don't know who that is. Oh, that was you, Brother Reggie. He gave us a beautiful shout out at the beginning of his video. And anyway, and I don't want to play the clip because Ankh was like, don't play the clip. But check out.
No, you can play it now, though. You can play it now.
You can play it now?
Yeah, we kind of hashed out play the clip.
Because you were like, I don't want to play the clip. So
yeah, you can play
during the shout out, Professor Dave, and I'm finding the video right now. I'm going to his YouTube channel, family. Professor Dave Explains. Please make sure that you subscribe to his YouTube channel. It's very, very informative. Okay, where is it? Here it is. Here it is. Hold on. I think Brother Ankh, it was right at the beginning, right? Okay, he's not.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
It was at the beginning, right at the beginning.
Hey everyone, many of you saw me tear Lord Jamar a new orifice on Godfrey's podcast a few weeks ago, which went moderately viral. Well, the fallout from that has been unexpectedly epic, leading to numerous developments, so let's get a closer look. As for broad impact, I was very pleased to be thanked profusely by the Black community, who have had quite enough of figures like Lord Jamar and Billy Carson making them look bad. As a result of the spanking I gave him, I was invited on numerous podcasts to talk about how the Black community can enfranchise themselves through scholarship rather than succumbing to Afrocentric pseudoscience and anti-intellectualism.
So hold on, let's stop right there. You see how he conflated, he said Afrocentric or Afrocentrism, right? He conflated it. He's conflated it with anti-intellectualism and pseudoscience, right? And he he did this on the video, but when he was live with Ankh and I a couple of weeks ago, he did the same thing. He called, and notice he mentioned Billy Carson and all these people calling him Afrocentrist, basically. And when he came on this platform a couple of weeks ago, he did it. He said, yeah, that Afrocentrism, Afrocentric, Billy Carson. And Ankh was like, wait a minute, Billy Carson isn't Afrocentric. He wouldn't consider him, Afrocentric. And, Professor Dave didn't, he's like, oh, okay. And we just kind of moved on. So when he gave the shout out, Ankh sent me the link. And I was like, man, I really appreciate Professor Dave, shouting us out at the beginning of his video. But I was like, this is the second time I feel like he kind of took a jab at, Afrocentric or Afrocentrism, which a lot of people say is also Afrocentricity. I know we could say Afro or Afri, Dr. Saw, it's a lot of different, arguments going on. But Ankh and I got into like this heated argument on the phone, and he was like, so what are you saying? Are you saying that Dr. Ben and Dr. John Henry Clark and Sheikh Anti-Joke, were they Afrocentrists? And I said, well, yeah, their work would fall under the framework of Afrocentricity. No, it wouldn't. Even Dr. John Henry Clark, he said that he's not an Afrocentrist. And, how are you going to say that man is Afrocentrist? He even said he wasn't. And I said, well, just because he said he wasn't, doesn't mean that the ideas and concepts that he espoused doesn't fall under the framework. It doesn't mean that, And so that was the gist of the argument. Did I leave anything out, Brother Ankh?
Yeah.
All right, what did I leave out?
How you gonna be scientific literate and then say that? I was like,
no.
It's the framework. You said it's the framework. You supposed to understand that.
No.
You ain't say that?
You said we were talking about the framework, and you made the comment, I don't care about theoretical frameworks. And I said, you cannot be running around saying that you are a science advocate or science communicator and say that you don't care about theoretical frameworks. That makes zero sense. Oh. That's when I said that. Gotta tell the whole story.
Yeah, I was talking about that theoretical framework. I was talking about that one, that particular idea there. And so on that show, I made the comment that he wasn't, that I said, well, no, we wouldn't consider Billy Carson that. That's because we into the inner workings, right? But to the rest of the world, to everybody besides us on this panel, it looked the same. If it walked like a duck and it quacked like a duck, it's a duck. So that's my point. I'm saying in 2025, 2024, in these time periods, it has not separated itself to the point where it used to. And my point is that it's ill-equipped to deal with what's going on today. I think it was perfect to put that mirror up with Eurocentric thought. Perfect. Bang. It pushed the needle. Okay. Portions of it pushed the needle. What John Henry Clark and them did, we're going to talk about that. It pushed the needle. But to be saying the same things now in 2025, I just think it's ill-equipped. And when Professor Dave and them and everybody else around us look at it, they spewing pseudoscientific ideas. Like, what else you supposed to do? It's not much you can actually do at that point. Like, it is what it is.
But that's not Afrocentricity, what you're talking about. That's what I'm saying to you. You're lumping it in, and this is what I said to you on the phone. I said, Ankh, when people think of Afrocentric rhetoric or whatever, right? I said they typically see a face like ours, and if you're espousing pseudoisms, they say, "Oh, that's Afrocentricity, that's Afrocentrism." That's what they lump it in, and I get it. If you see that, and I'm talking about your Billy Carsons, I'm talking about your young pharaohs, your polites, your nature boys. They see a black face and they're talking all this black history crap, and really not black history, but black pseudoscience, black pseudo history. They say, "Oh, that's an Afrocentric or Afrocentrist." And what I'm telling you is that they aren't. They aren't Afros. They're not what we would call Afrocentrists. They're just not. People typically see a black person and they're teaching black stuff, and they just automatically say, "You're Afrocentric." And I'm telling you that there is a theoretical framework out there called Afrocentricity, and these people, their work, their concept, their ideas do not fall under that framework. That's what I'm saying to you.
Absolutely.
Dr. Asar?
No, absolutely. And I agree. There is what you call pseudoscience. How do I sound?
You sound crystal clear.
Okay. There is. And I think that when I'm hearing what Ankh said, I understand.
Absolutely.
But the reality is that a lot of people are purporting to be doing quantum theory. So I don't throw quantum theory out because some fools came along and then everybody think they're quantum theorists. You understand? So, I mean, I'm just going to stay right. I'm going to start it off with that. So just because some fools came along and think that they are quantum theorists and everybody and their mother believes them, they believe that Terrence Howard is somehow a scientist and knows more than all the scientists put together. Does that mean I throw out the laws of physics and the laws of all these other things? No. So I'll stop there. Hold on. Let me start off. I went to Sojourner Douglas College. Yeah. I went to Sojourner Douglas College, real black college, African Senate College that had sciences, liberal arts, all the different things with a social justice orientation. Also, some of the greatest, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, all of them been through that place.
They sure
Also, Dr. Ben has an honorary doctorate. Dr. Malefi has an honorary doctorate. So many people. Dr. Wells has been through that. Everybody's been there. And, we can critique all the different people that came before us. But the reality is, I don't throw out the baby with as somebody, I heard one of our elders say the other day, I think it was Dr. What's my dear Baba name? I love him so much, but I can't. Dr. Amos Wilson says you don't throw out the baby with the wash water.
Wash water.
He said wash water.
Yeah. Brother Reggie.
You on mute, brother. Unmute yourself. We can't hear you. You
good, brother Reggie. You good, brother Reggie?
Hey, okay. So there's nuances. And so I actually took classes with Dr. Clark, and I actually had a long relationship, of course, with Dr. Joseph Benjo-Cannon, and my entree into this was Dr. Leonard Jeffries, right? And I received the Honors Award at commemoration for in Black Studies, right, in 88. Even though I was a computer science major, I also did a lot of work in Black Studies. I don't want to go through my bio, but I knew them personally. And I also met Dr. Malefi Asante several times. There's a stark difference between the thinking, and those are the things that we can analyze. But in his book, Afrocentricity, the Theory of Social Change, page 104, this is the first, he says, seizing of time, Africans are at the center of American history. Arriving before the Pilgrims, we existed before the American nation. A succession of spokesmen from the 18th century have understood as much and have been able to capitalize on this centrality. Now, the first statement, Africans are at the center of American history. Arriving before the Pilgrims, we existed before the American nation. There's a lot of conflation going on here. So the problem with the theory of social change that Dr. John Henry Clarke kind of made points on was the myth making in the potential for the myth making in the book, the feel good analysis that's in this book. And the difference between Dr. John Henry Clarke's point of view is we need to, before we say that we're something, we need to study who these people are, right? And we don't necessarily have to change. We're Africans, Americans, but we need to be conscious of the real history, and the more conscious that we are of real history, without the myth making, the better we will be. The better we will be. And so Afrocentricity gets into a lot of trouble into academia, and it pretty much first it started in academia as a model, but then it moved to the grassroots, and Afrocentricity moved out of academia, and Africology became the major model in academia. So where it started supposedly in academia, it actually was pushed out to the grassroots, and in academia now is something else called Africology. I'll stop and we can talk more about that. But there's a lot of if that first sentence that I said, Africans are at the center of American history. No. Arriving before the Pilgrims. No.
Okay, you do know the Pilgrims arrived, the Mayflower. I don't want to get into the dates, Brother Reggie, but you do know when they came, right?
I'm looking at the point
Right, you said no. When did the Pilgrims get here, Brother Reggie?
The Pilgrims got here in the.
When did the Mayflower get here?
The Mayflower gets. Wait, first of all, the Africans came with the Spanish, right, around the 1570 something. They came there, right?
Yeah, around 15.
But they weren't the center of anything.
Right.
They weren't the center of anything. The second part, they were labor. So when the Mayflower,
But you said no, they weren't here before the Pilgrims, and I'm just saying that was an error. I just wanted to point that out.
16, roughly about 1611 or so, Africans find themselves in
Jamestown, Virginia.
No, not Fort Comfort in Virginia. It becomes Fort Monroe, but Fort Comfort was a British fort that they find themselves in. The issue of the point on the Pilgrims, not the Pilgrims, but Jamestown, that was debunked. They actually find themselves in Fort Comfort.
Oh, Fort Comfort, but they were here before the Pilgrims. That's my point.
Right, but if you look at the razzle dazzle in the wording, first, are they the center?
Can I?
Well, let's define.
You said that, Brother Reggie. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Because you said that like four times.
You sure did.
I kind of want 5 times.
But I'm gonna ask you. Can I respond to that?
Yes.
All right. So let's say it's on. That's what the book says. What date is that?
I think this is the first edition.
Yeah, the first edition.
The first edition.
What's the date on there?
What's the date on that, Brother Reggie?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Because we're talking about two things. We're saying there's been a devolution and there's an evolution and all these type of things. So, in this point,
this one is 1980, and it doesn't say which edition. So I'm assuming.
Thank you. So 2005, he says, Dr. Clark. We know Dr. Clark critiqued it, right? We know that scholars critique each other. That's a normal thing. We know that Freud is one of the most beat up scholars in the field, but his stuff still stands to the day. I think I went out and I came back and I think you were still talking. I thought it was on your end, but I think it was probably on my end. I think you said it went to psychology and things of that nature. I think that's where I came back on. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's see what 2005 edition says. It says Afrocentricity is a mode of thought and action in which the centrality of African interests, values, and perspectives predominate. In theory, it is placing of African people at the center of any analysis of African phenomena. It enables anyone to master the discipline of identifying the location of Africans within any given phenomenon. In action and behavior, Afrocentricity reflects a devotion to the idea that best interests of African consciousness are at the heart of ethical behavior. Furthermore, it enshrines that the idea that blackness itself is a trope of ethics. To be black is to stand against all forms of oppression, including racism, classism, homophobia, patriarchy, child abuse, pedophilia, and white racial domination. Page 2.
So that's what year is that, Dr. Asar?
2005.
Oh, 2005. So Brother Reggie was reading from the 1980 version. And as a scholar, what we do is we go back in and we update our stuff. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, that is correct. He was. All right. They were forced to update.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens in academia.
That's what happens in academia.
That's what happens. That's what Ankh does. Ankh beats people up all day. He forces them. He forces their hand to change some things. That's why I appreciate the work. That's why I appreciate the channel. I do, because it's a process.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then we analyze all the things that you say. So let's slow this down. This felt real good. I feel real good. I'm wearing Dr. Jeffrey's dashiki. I feel real good, right? I got a dashiki from Dr. Ben. I feel real good. Read that again.
You want me to share it? So Afrocentricity is a mode of thought and action in which the centrality of African interests, values, and perspectives predominate. In theory, and in placing the African people at the center of any analysis of African phenomena, it enables anyone to master the discipline of identifying the location of Africans within any given phenomenon. In actions and behavior, Afrocentricity reflects the devotion of the idea that the best interests of African consciousness are at the heart of ethical behavior. Furthermore, it enshrines the idea that blackness itself is the trope of ethics. To be black is to stand against all forms of oppression, including racism, classism, homophobia, patriarchy, child abuse, pedophilia, and white racial domination.
Go ahead, brother Reggie.
To be black.
So Reggie, can I jump in?
Yes, you can.
Trying to tap me in. You gotta tap me in. Tap me in and get yourself together, because we caught you with that. Interesting how they did that. I'm not mad. That's why I say, let me bring Reggie up here to buy me some time. There's 2 doctors on this panel, and they not only they serious doctors with thought, philosophy, science, STEM. Man, the brother both of them got real programs going down. Like, you can actually go to Baltimore, meet up with Dr. Meow. She got real programs. You can actually meet up with Dr. Winkler. He has a building, and he'll let you lecture if you got something to say. So these ain't to be played with. They're not corny. They're not faking it.
And he teaches at a university. He publishes papers.
I ain't get there yet.
He has his own practice.
Right, I ain't get there yet.
Yeah, the brother got it going on.
Yeah, I ain't get there yet.
But go ahead, brother.
So I think that idea that y'all just read was good. And I think that time has actually passed, because now African Americans, we actually study anthropology in its present form. We actually understand that all humans are African savanna apes, just diverse. So when you actually say African centered and Afrocentric and all that, you're really talking about humanity. I think that's what he's really talking about. He's talking about humanity. Now, for me, I'm an African American. Now, my worldview is African American, because I'm already African. History has been proven to be centered on the continent of Africa first.
Come on, brother.
He would agree. Yeah, he would agree. They have a whole book on it. It's called Being Human Being.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a whole lecture on it at the center where they talked about exactly.
Didn't they put him out the thing though? Ain't they mad at him for that book?
People are mad at him because they saying things similar to what you say.
Exactly. So he would agree.
I thought the side he was on, right? Am I wrong?
No, he would agree with what you just said, Ankh.
Yeah, I know, right. But
Dr. Dove is not a lightweight. Check her out.
No. Let me say this though. Let me first point.
Let me grab my book.
He would agree with me. But the people that are claiming to be Afrocentric and all that don't agree with the guy who's growing and changing this thing. Am I wrong on that?
No, I think it depends, right? I think you always have those who are more academic, right? Those who are more studious, those who are more closer to the theory itself, like quantum theory, right? Again, I'm just using this again, quantum theorists, and then you have the pseudo quantum theorists, and then the pseudo quantum theorists don't agree with the quantum theorists or the quantum mechanics, whatever. They don't. So it's always going to be this tug of war. When you find stuff from academia, it trickles down into pop culture, and then they thwart it.
No, I mean, what he's saying now, the people that's supposed to be Afrocentric is not agreeing with him.
No, I'm saying that you always have different schools in any theoretical.
No, but am I wrong though? That's all I'm trying to say. I can't.
Okay, I'm gonna agree, and I'm gonna agree. But
I don't
listen to what he's saying to you. Say it again, Dr. Asar.
Go ahead.
I said I agree with you that there are factions of any school of thought that disagree, and that is in science. I don't care if it's hard, physical, social, whatever, medicine, nursing, whatever it is. They have people in different schools and look at theories in different ways, and they evolve, and people debate them all the time. This is what scholars do. And
so I agree with you. Mm-hmm. There's an issue though. The only people we see is maybe y'all two, and everybody else is running them up. That's the problem. That the majority of the people are familiar with for real, right? Is talking about Africans are native to America. That's what's going on. And they putting a claim and saying it's Afrocentric thought there. We can't deny that. And I think that's what we really got to deal with. Right. It's like the problem the Christians got. You know what the Christians say, right? Well, those Europeans that enslaved, they wasn't really Christians. Yeah, everybody keeps saying they wasn't really Christians. So they're not really Afrocentric. They really not that. I'm saying, so the question is, will the real Christians please stand up? And will the real Afrocentrics please stand up? That is the issue.
Yeah,
that I'm saying.
I mean, but what he's saying, like even in science, Ankh, will the real scientists please stand up?
Yes.
So you have pseudoscientists and you have scientists. I mean, well, you have scientists
pseudoscience,
who espouse, right? You have scientists who espouse pseudoscientific ideas, right?
Yeah, just
and then you have scientists that stand on science, and that's what we're saying. It's no different in the Afrocentric community. It's the same thing, Ankh.
No, you
That's what we're
can't.
saying to-
We can't put Christianity with science.
No, I'm not. I
We
didn't put
can't put
Christianity.
an idea. We
You missed
shouldn't
you
mix
missed
them
the
two.
point. You missed the
I
point.
heard you. I heard
you missed
what
the
you.
point. You missed the point. What I'm saying, and he said it perfectly. He said there are factions in every school of thought. That's what we want you to
man.
Oh man,
Yeah,
you can't, if you
I
don't
hear you.
understand that.
No,
I don't know what to say at this point.
No, that's actually clear. But I'm
Yeah,
saying, but the faction that's got the biggest mouth, the faction that's getting judged, is the faction that y'all claim ain't really them. That's all I'm saying.
but let
Not
me
talking
give
about y'all two. Not talking about y'all
No,
two.
no, I know. I get what
Pseudoscience
you're
has
saying.
Pseudoscience has a loud voice.
Yeah, it does. That's what I was going to say.
No, they don't have a voice in science, though. They don't have a voice in science.
But
They don't.
But yeah, but you're not talking about science again. You're
No,
talking
you're
about
not.
those of us in the street. Those of us in the street, we buck everything. I'm telling you, I see clients every day, and they don't want to listen to their medical doctor. They don't want to listen to their psychotherapist. They know everything, but they come and they go. You see what I'm saying? So the reality is, what you're saying is accurate to a degree, but our people don't believe nothing because of the trauma we've been through.
Speak to it.
We don't believe none of that. We don't believe hard science.
On this subject,
we don't believe it.
On this subject, I have a question, right? Is Afrocentricity a science?
Afrocentricity is a theory, a theoretical framework.
I keep saying it's a theoretical framework.
And what Dr. Asante would say, it's a meta theory even.
Okay, so
and then we talk about Afrocentricity, then you have African centered and all that. Yes.
Well, okay, so because I was familiar with those people who were critiquing this first book that came out, right? I know there's lots of changes because if you look in this, right, this is a book that we actually studied for classes, right? Though the book has changed, well, so the question is it a science or is it a theoretical model?
All sciences have theoretical models.
Okay. Is it a science?
It can be used scientifically.
Okay. All right.
Like all sciences, yes.
We can get into it. So it says the Afrocentric perspective, page 92, first edition, upholds the significance of science. Indeed, in the sense that it is based upon history and heritage. History and heritage and science, that's problematic because history is told largely by the conquerors or those who write or the majority population. History is not necessarily true, right? So the Afrocentric perspective upholds the significance of science, indeed in the same model that it is based upon history and heritage. Relating heritage to science, to me, is problematic. Afrocentric is itself a science. However, at the same time, Western science, with its notions of knowledge and phenomena for the sake of knowledge and the techniques for progress, is not deep enough for our humanistic and spiritual viewpoint. Now it's a science, but there's a spiritual viewpoint. What is spiritual? Therefore, its limitations are clearly revealed in our history. As Karenga has said, we are not into spookism. We are, however, most definitely into personalizing, energizing every aspect of nature.
And you're still reading from the 1980 text, right?
The point of it, see, there's a root to it. So with science, something fixes itself or it doesn't fix itself. So
he cleaned it up. You didn't read the 2005. Was it 2005?
Right. I'm
so
saying
you're 20 years behind, and you're saying it wasn't fixed because you're not reading from the current text.
What I'm saying is what I said in the very beginning, my dear sister, Dr. Ma'at. Because of the problems, it was moved out of academia into the community. And what was moved into academia is Africology. So whether you're reading the current 2000,
Dr. Starr's like, no, Reggie, that's not accurate.
Right? Well, just because he's shaking his head, prove it.
Okay, let's talk.
Let me say that.
Let him talk.
Before you jump in, I want to make a statement. I just want to make one statement. I totally disagree with Afrocentricity as being a science. I say it's a philosophical thought based on African people and ideas.
He gave you that. He gave you that.
Okay.
He gave you that.
All right. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let me share my screen.
All right.
I don't.
You said you weren't going to sneak them.
Okay, well, I won't.
Now
I'm
joking. I'm joking. Go ahead.
It's just the idea. Okay, let me just flow with it. Let me just flow.
No. Go ahead. Share it. Share your screen.
Let me see if I can. Let me see. Okay, I think I can do that. Let's do this. And all right, let's do this. I think I can do that. I can share it like present.
And your people in the chat talking about Afrocentrism. They don't even know the difference between Afrocentricity and Afrocentricity.
I know what I want.
They don't even know the difference. That's why
I wish you would have, because I learned that today. I learned that today. Nah, ain't nobody know that but you, Doctor.
Can y'all see my
screen now?
When you finish, we're gonna go back into that.
Tell them go ask chat. Tell them to go ask ChatGPT.
No, you're gonna get into that. I thought you was gonna open up. You kind of talked about it, but you ain't make that stark difference. I think that's important because I didn't know that until today.
All right, it's a
difference.
Okay, y'all can see my screen now.
Yeah, we see that.
Okay, I'm on the wrong screen. I'm on the wrong computer.
But people do interchange them.
Yes, they do. Yeah, you gonna break it down.
Yeah,
you gave a great, beautiful breakdown on that. That was serious.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
And that is what science does. That's why you have to operationalize everything you say, because things will be interchanged. Always, people would always share words and conflate words, and there's no such thing as really conflating them when you operationalize them, because you have to operationalize all your words when you're writing up a journal article or when you're putting on a science experiment. You have to always operationalize what you're saying and what you mean by it.
Exactly. But Dr. Saw, the people in the chat, they speak in chat. They're not writing any journal papers. Please go and write your slide.
So again, I think we have to understand the difference between epistemology, theory, models, and all that type of thing, right? I think we know about that, right?
Can you enlarge this? Can you enlarge this, Doc?
I can't. It's a PowerPoint slide.
Yeah, you hit the wrong button. You got to hit the other button.
Who, me?
Yeah, you hit the other. I know what you're doing. You could actually, if you get out that screen, You keep sharing. I can show you how to hit the button where your whole thing come up.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop share like that.
Yeah. Let me look. Come on. You actually hit the wrong button. You gotta hit the presentation, then share from this slide. Oh, let me see. I'll tell you exactly what it is. I see what you did. All right. So when you're on your PowerPoint, what you want to do is there's going to be a thing to say slideshow. Click slideshow.
Slides and PDFs?
Nope, just slide. It's going to say slideshow. You're going to have home, insert, draw, design, transition, animation, slideshow.
Oh, you're talking about on the slideshow itself?
Yes.
Yeah, I do have it on slideshow.
Oh, now I want you to go play from current slide. Click that.
Yeah, I'm kind of there, but I'll do it again.
Yeah, you was at the other.
I love Joel Armstrong. He said they alive
slideshow.
Folks
pray from current slide. I'm gonna go with what
Shout
you're saying. You won't hear more than me. So I'm gonna
That's
share again.
Right there, Miss Tiff.
Share screen.
Why is him saying that?
I have to share the entire screen. That's gonna share my slides. Oh, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
No. Oh, I think. Am I sharing the presenter's view?
You ain't sharing nothing yet.
Is that what I was sharing? The presenter's view?
You weren't doing. You got to do it just like I said.
Okay, but I think I know I have to take it off the presenter's view. Okay, I'm going to the presenter's view is up. That's
never mind. Just do it the way you normally.
No, he got it. Just put slideshow. Go click the slideshow.
Slideshow.
And then you click the wrong thing. You're gonna see it. There's a red line going highlight slideshow, and you're gonna see your slides, right? And then go to your left, and it's gonna say, play from current slide. Don't do presenter's view. That's what you messed up on. Don't do that. I'm going to do play from current slide.
Entire window, entire screen.
Right, entire window.
And the problem is, you know what it is? I have two screens going on here, and that's the problem. To be honest with you.
Yeah, just show it the regular way, Doc. I mean, you don't have to.
It's
Yeah,
not.
you don't got to put no button. You can just put it here. We can see the slides on the left and the main one that you on. If you
Yeah,
want
just go ahead and do what you did earlier. It's no problem.
It's coming up with my slides. Okay, is that what you're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
you did. No. What you did was what you said. You actually click presenter's view. Yeah, see, that's in presenter's view.
That's how it was earlier.
Right.
Yeah, that's
you
how it
want to
was
go to
earlier.
one to the right of it. Go the one to the right of them says play from current slide. That's what you want to do.
It's a way to
Get out of that. Just get out of that.
So what happened, Unc? I think what the difference is, I'm using two screens.
Okay.
So that's why it's a little different than what you're saying.
What happens when you press?
I'm gonna swap it. Let me see if it swaps.
No,
Okay.
I'm trying to show you. Listen, you there. You just you keep pushing the wrong one.
Stop screen share.
Doc, I'm
I'm
telling
gonna
you,
show
just rock off, y'all. I don't want to be on here for 10 minutes.
No,
That's why I said just let him put his
slide.
slide up and let him rock off. Let him
No,
let
we're
him do his
good. Look
thing.
at him and show you. Show my screen, Doc. Show my screen.
I got
Paul's
it. Yo. I got
fundraising.
it. I got it.
Now you see that? See that says, look, see that right there. You keep pushing.
No. I have it
back.
because it's the screen. It's two
Okay.
computers. That's the problem. I think it's up now, y'all. Is it
I
showing
get
right
your
now?
point. I
Top of
get your
that?
point. All right.
Yeah,
All right, go ahead,
that's what he kept saying. He had the two screens up. So
Yeah. So yeah.
There you go. There you go.
So I think we're talking about epistemology is the way of understanding, right? Then we have theory is a systematic explanation, which breaks down to like models and simplified representations. Then we can test these things, right? Afrocentric theory is no different. I just want to say that, right? And we already talked about empirical validation. Some the illusions of knowledge, misuse of theories. We spoke about that earlier. It happens all the time, right? It happens with Freudian theories, African-centered history. All the things everything can be pseudoscientifically done in a way. You know what I mean? So you can mess up all types of science. We talked about that already. So let's see where we can go to. I do want to talk about there's art in the science though, because people don't really sometimes understand it. In practice, art is even still.
From?
Say it again.
Where's this document from?
Where's this document coming from?
Yes.
I teach this. I teach this as a clinician.
Okay, so you teach it as a clinician, so it's your work.
It's not my work. It's shared work of the field.
Okay.
But I understand the whole the idea of sources and all that. Believe me, I'm way past that right now. I'm saying like
I'm just trying to catch up because when we're talking about so your critique is that when we began to study it, and I've looked at some of the other editions, I just don't have the other editions, right? Certainly there's some changes, but with science, there's some fundamental things in the theoretical model that doesn't change. So the problem is in the beginning.
What do you mean? Hold on.
Yeah, Dr. Reggie, I don't believe
with
that. What are you
saying?
Theories change, y'all. They update theories in science. What are we talking about here?
And there's different types of experiments. There's different types of research. There's different types of things. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna try to make it. I'm trying to make it plain.
Reggie's saying that shouldn't be compared to a scientific theory, Afrocentricity.
No. Nobody said that it was no one said it was a scientific theory.
The only person on here, the only person said it was a scientific theory was you on here.
I read from the book,
the 1980 book. The 1980.
You reading when they were still babies in their pajamas.
Yeah, you read from the 1980 book. No one's saying that it's a scientific theory.
Brother Reggie, update your literature.
Update your literature.
In science, Reggie, something even 10 years old is too old. But it's a
listen.
That's a foundational
bigger
piece.
Degrees in science than me, but I got science.
No.
It's fundamentally changed.
We're not talking about degrees, Reggie. Unc knows science really well. You know science really well. It's not about.
Why we having a degree conversation?
Fundamentally, the model.
This is what you brought on. All
right, so you. Okay,
no, he has his own ideas.
Let me proceed, Reggie. Let me.
But I know where Reggie is at though. So Reggie's basically saying it seems like there's a blending in with the Afrocentricity and science. That's what I'm saying.
He never said it was a scientific.
I know that's
theory.
what it sounds like though.
I'm just going
crazy. Okay, so let's be clear again.
Sound like who said?
Let's be clear.
It sounds like
it's a scientific theory. Who said that it was a?
Go back to that slide. Go back to that slide.
I don't think people understand what a theoretical framework
Ex-
is.
okay,
No
well,
one
explain
said
it.
it was a side. No one said it was a
Explain
science.
what it is.
Epistemology.
It's right here.
He just showed the slide.
Epistemology focus on
Mhm.
the nature of knowledge, its sources and validity. Key question: how do we know what we know? That is epistemology.
Mhm.
Let's say Afrocentricity is one of those epistemological approaches to understanding the world, just like all types of things, quantum theory, everything else. I keep throwing that in there because people misuse that, right? So again, so it's even a theory because it's fleshed out, a systematic explanation of phenomena based on observations and reasoning, provides general principles that can be tested and refined, meaning there's some assumptions there, right? Example is
assumptions.
say it again.
Scientific assumptions.
Yes,
Go ahead.
absolutely. So I got you. So look, an example, a diathesis stress model, right? Or diathesis stress theory explains how a combination of genetic and predispositions, which is diathesis, and environmental stresses can lead to development of psychological disorders, right? So in other words, so a diathesis stress model would say that it would say, or theory, it would say your early childhood experiences coupled with your genetic disposition leads you to be more likely to develop an onset of bipolar disorder, right? It says we all have this disposition, this ability to develop bipolar disorder, all of us. However, the experiences and your DNA make it more likely. That is what a diathesis stress theory or model says, right? It says models, again, simplified representations of reality derived from theories used to predict outcomes, demonstrate, process, or clarify relationships. So there's a difference. I just want to go back to the first two. And you can even say it's epistemological understanding. You can say it's a theory. That's what we want. That's what we're saying. But you need those two to get to what you're saying is science, which is empirical validation at the back. You can't get to the empirical validation if you don't have a theory.
And I just
okay, so what does this have to do with?
Hold on, brother. I want to say this
Afrocentricity.
I want to say this for the record. If anybody goes back, and I see shout out to the pseudo killers in the building, I see Sister Juju and all of them. If you go back to this from the beginning, I said that Afrocentricity was a theoretical framework. I never said that it was a scientific theory. I never said it. I never said that.
No, I was talking about that slide right there. So that slide was doing what for us? Because I thought we were talking about Afrocentricity. That's why I got confused. When I seen the slide, I was like, well, why would he put that slide in the middle of talking about Afrocentricity? That's what I was saying.
So the last thing I said, Brother is that let's go to the first top 2 points. You can say it's epistemology, or you can say it's a theory.
You talk what Afrocentricity?
Afrocentricity, yes.
Yeah, but that's why I got confused. You can't say it's a theory. That's what I was saying. That's a theory, like a non-scientific theory, where you have a theory, but not a scientific theory.
You can say it's a theory. No one said
it
was a scientific theory. Who said it was a scientific theory?
It's absolutely a theory.
The book said it.
It's not a scientific theory.
The 1980 book that you're reading from. The 1980 book that you're reading from. No one on this panel. No one on this panel said that Afrocentricity was a scientific theory.
The book, it's a science.
All right.
So show me in the newest version.
I hear you. Wait, but hold on. We missing something right here. Get off there. Hold on. Do y'all get my point? Hold on. We should hold on for a minute, Reg. We can figure this out real quick. So, is you saying that you could? It's just a theory, but not a science. So we're agreeing this is a theory, but not a scientific theory, right? Are we agreeing with that?
Okay, let's do this. Let's operationalize.
I'm not even talking to you. I'm not talking to you.
Let's operationalize.
You're saying something different. You're saying something different. Go ahead.
Let's operationalize what you mean, the difference between the theory and the scientific theory. Then I can answer that question.
Well, scientific theory is based off empirical data and the organizer of the scientific facts. A theory is, well, I think Afrocentricity is good for all African Americans, African people. That's just your theory. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be well supported. It's just an idea. It's just your philosophy, and that's dope. That's all. Two different things. So I thought you were saying it was the scientific theory. Doc keeps saying no, but I'm just hearing something different. I just want to get it clear going forward. because I'm actually learning. There was some things the doc said on that telephone that I think the world needs to hear. So that's what I was saying, though, Doc. Seriously, that's my point. You can never make Afrocentricity a scientific theory. It could be a theory, but not a scientific theory. Two separate things.
So,
Yeah,
all right. So
I don't think in his book, even when Reggie read it, that he called it a scientific theory. That would be bananas.
We're not talking about him.
You're saying that Dr. Asar said it?
Yeah, we're talking about Dr. Asar.
okay, what did Dr. Asar say?
Did you call Afrocentricity a scientific theory? I don't think I heard you say that.
When you say, I'm saying it's a theory, like all science, you have to. All theories are testable. You have to test them, right?
That's it right there, yo. That's where the confusion is, right there. Don't say that.
Don't say what?
A theory, because you have a theory and then a scientific theory. So I agree, it's a theory. Totally agree with that. No issues right here. No, but a scientific theory is totally different.
So tell me so what's the difference? That's the key difference. Very shortly. I know you said it a little earlier, but what's the key differences?
A scientific theory is the organizing of scientific facts with empirical data. A theory is, and I'm gonna give you the Afrocentric theory, that the African population, okay, work better on planet Earth if they have Afrocentricity, that they see the world from a better lens. That's just a theory.
That's
not a scientific theory, though. That's a philosophy. It's a philosophical thought, which is fine. Like I support that all the way. But can it be based in empirical data?
It's such a broad. It's not. Well, let's look at it. Let's look at it a little bit.
I'm a sit back. I want to hear you because I know it's some good slides right here. I just wanted to make that distinction. That's all.
Thank you, brother. Point, can I mean, I don't want to go ahead.
Yeah, brother. Reggie, let them get through, and then you next, Reg. Go ahead. We listening. Go ahead.
I don't want to. There's all types of theories, right? Medicine has theories, and nobody can prove them.
Huh?
Yes. Let's go back. Let's I'm skipping through all this, right? Okay.
Trying to bring proof.
Let's say it again.
Yeah, science is not about proof. Math is proof.
Let's say support. Let's say we don't know why certain things happen. We just know they happen.
Oh, go ahead. I don't want to slow you down. Go ahead.
All right. I'm wondering if I even should go into that, right? So science.
You can.
The science, the aspect, okay. So let's look here. So let's look at two different ways of helping people, such as psychotherapy and medicine. There's empirical theories such as CBT, psychodynamic, all these type of things, which are empirically based theories that have lots of evidence that they work with people, right? And they're saying that these will help all the people, perhaps, or they're going to help people, right? So that'll be like CBT or psychodynamic theory and so on and so forth. Then you have follows biomedical research, clinical trials, and so on and so forth, right? But the thing is, you have an art aspect, which it requires adaptation and intuition to implement these things, because everything doesn't work for people. All the people, right? Like you're kind of saying, brother Ankh, like everything doesn't work for all the people. In social and medical sciences, we already know that, right? We already account for those things. We already account that different strokes for different folks. It tells us, and let me say this, I'm coming from an African-centered psychological perspective, right? A psychological framework. So I want to frame it in that way. So psychotherapy tailors its interventions to emotions, culture, and lived experiences. Medicine applies knowledge with clinical judgment, empathy, and patient-centered care. They're not doing a real good job at it all the time, but they do it. The challenge is isolating variables and understanding the change, complexity in human systems. Let's go here. It is difficult to pinpoint which intervention leads to change when it comes to psychotherapy. But we do know that we can measure the change. So, for example, we don't know if it's the therapeutic alliance, the behavior modification, if it's the relationship, medicine, mechanism of action. They call it mechanisms of action. In psychotherapy, they call it mechanisms of change. Mechanisms of actions are sometimes unclear, especially in treatment affecting multiple systems, such as antidepressants, holistic medicine, so on and so forth. Because holistic medicine does have some level, so it can bring about some change. But why does it do it? It doesn't mean that like all the people that believe in what Dr. Sebi says is happening, because a lot of that is false. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't do anything for all people, that nutrition doesn't do it, that all these things don't do a thing, like medicine, Western medicine doesn't do a thing, because it does a thing. They just don't know how all the time. They don't know what's always going on. So what it's saying here is it's important to have a balance between both. Both psychotherapy and medicine require precision and of science and intuition of art, navigating the uncertainty of human complexity. So let's go into this. Right here, I just put up here 4 slides that measure various aspects of African-centeredness or Afrocentricity, or however you want to call it. This first scale measures awareness and commitment to African cultural identity. This scale was developed by none other than Dr. Colby Cambone, right?
Out of FAMU.
Yes. Beautiful, strong.
Well, hold on. I don't mean to cut you off.
Mhm.
I want to let the chat to know that these 2 doctors are my friends. They're not only my friends, they have given me the opportunity to be on their platforms. This ain't that. I'm saying they my friends. So treat them as such in the chat. Now, you can beat up the stuff if you saying getting something wrong, but I'm gonna let you know I respect these 2 doctors right here. And I ain't trying to hear none of that. Not trying to hear that, because they'll beat y'all half to death in a serious conversation. Y'all tripping. There's levels to this thing right here. So I just want to let y'all know that I respect these 2 doctors right here. Y'all already know what it is. This brother brought me to his platform in Baltimore, Maryland, gave me an opportunity to promote what I was doing in front of the community, bro. He's one of the first supporters there. I'm letting you know that. I met him through Dr. Mayat. They support what we do here. So don't get you slick on there because we chatty in the damn patty. That go for everybody. Everybody knock it off. Be concise with your words, right? Be precise in what you're saying. If you get something wrong, give that same energy back. Give them that doctorate type energy back. Well, I think this is wrong because of this. Do that. Let's not play the crazy game. They're not the 2 people that y'all should do that to. They not that. They not pseudos. I'm just letting y'all know that. Go ahead, brother. Doc, my fault. Go ahead, Doc.
No problem. Thanks. So I'm also your brother. So African self-consciousness scale. So what I'm saying, it kind of depends. And I want to say this because in social sciences, in psychology, and all these different things aren't just a this or that thing. And one of the African-centered principles that I really think really work well for us is not this or that, it's both and, right? So African self-consciousness scale created by Colby Cambone can measure the awareness and commitment to African cultural identity. I just want to say this is one scale that can measure one's level of Africanity or African-centeredness or African, so on and so forth. So then you have the Negreson scale, and all which tracks stages of Black identity development. It talks about one's attitudinal disposition from a social identity as your Black social identity. So in other words, you have various different ways that Black people show up in the world. William Cross, who just passed, y'all familiar with him? William Cross, who just passed. A lot, there's major debate with him and the African-centered community, but he also found that he can measure what we call African-centeredness or Afrocentric attitudes. So what I'm saying is, even as Dr. Mayat started off earlier today, whether you profess that you're African-centered or not, that you can measure it, is validated, is reliable, and is scientific. All you got to do is go to the APA and go and see that is a psychological instrument, is a scientific instrument, and is reliable. You cannot have a psychological instrument that's being utilized like the Negreson scales without there being some level of validity, some type of statistical analysis that says this is a valid scale. So it measures one's Black identity. You can be you can be a number of things. You can be miseducated. You can have self-hatred. You can be a assimilationist. You can be Afrocentrist. You can be multiculturalist, and it can measure these things. And what I want to say is that for the most part, we all fall on the spectrum. It's not a this or that conversation. Some of us have more Afrocentric ideas or disposition than others. And this scale can track that, whether or not you're how much Afrocentricity you embody, what's in you, what's in your thought, what's in, that type of thing. So then you got cultural mistrust, you just got scales. I want to say that these are scientific instruments. That's pretty much what I really want to say. Also, I want to go in and say that just to also show these are peer-reviewed studies. I just took a screenshot. That's all. I just went to and looked up one scale and said this is African-centered self-consciousness scales, which have findings. And guess what they had to go through, family? A peer-reviewed process. So these are based on African-centeredness. So African-centered theory is not only a theory that is utilized that can be utilized in science, is utilized in science every day. I also want to go on and say this. There's outcomes, African-centered outcomes. And I just copied and pasted this from my dissertation. If you want to know where it's from.
Now you're showing off.
I'm just saying because, I don't have the reference page at the end and you want to catch me on that. It's from my dissertation. I'll let you know. I know how to reference a thing. And I also know that people can reference things and you'll never follow up and see what the reference was in the first place. I didn't turn in enough papers to know, and I didn't check enough papers to know that the references don't always match the sources and all types of things. People do some things. But what I'm trying to say is this. So some of the outcomes, culturally informed responses, protect, and this is being measured by one's Africanity or Afrocentric attitudes, protect against racism while increasing sensitivity to its effects. 2020, Carter Paterse. Let's say it again. That is recent data that says that one's Afrocentric beingness protects against racism while increasing sensitivity in its effects. Carter Paterse, y'all know them? Great scientists. Carter and Paterse, they have a book. It's called what is it called? Is it over here? But nonetheless, it's called Measuring Race-Based Trauma or something like that. Then you have psychosocial coping strategies. Racial identity, socialization, and cultural orientation aid in resilience. Again, Dr. Joy DeGruy. Y'all know Dr. Joy DeGruy. Dr. Joy DeGruy has done research. I know y'all know about her book, but she's also a scientist. She's a social worker who has a degree in social work, a PhD, research social work. Then she also has a degree in psychology and I think another one in social work at the master's level.
No, you know what's crazy, Dr. Asar, and I'm thinking about young Pharaoh right now. The sad part is when you call her a scientist, the sad part is people think that a scientist is just somebody that go into a lab and they got a white coat on, a lab coat, and they looking under a microscope. They don't really even understand what a scientist is. I mean, you get what I'm saying? I'm realizing that they really have no clue of what science and what a scientist does. And they think that a scientist is somebody in a lab mixing some chemicals, looking under. They think that that's all. They think that that's science, and that's a scientist. Just like young Pharaoh, in his mind, when he heard electrical engineering, he thought of a technician. He honestly thought that electrical engineers turn on lights. So he thought that electrical engineering was someone who dealt solely with electricity. And you and I both know, Dr. Asar, that in electrical engineering, we do cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning. We do all of that. Signal processing, materials and devices, material science. We do it all. But when he heard electrical engineer, he thought, oh, you build circuits all day. That's what you guys do. You're electricians. So when you say things are a science or someone is a scientist, they don't understand that she could be classified as a scientist because they think that only scientists study biology, physics, and chemistry. I promise you. I promise you. Go ahead, Brother Reggie.
Thank you so much. So the problem is that African-centered outcomes can be different than Afrocentric outcomes, right? So where everything that you've written may certainly be right for the model that you use, which is African-centered outcomes. The Afrocentric model may have some things that are problematic. For example, Afrocentricity says that God can speak as he spoke to Nat Turner regarding our situation.
That's what Afrocentricity says, Brother Ray?
Yes, Afrocentricity says that God.
That's what the framework says.
Yes, this is part. This is which chapter? This is Analysis and Science. In the section Analysis and Science, page 553, that God can speak as he spoke to Nat Turner regarding our situation. It says that we do not have to. What is this? We do not have to rely upon the distant prophet of the Jews to give us God's words when we have prophets and holy people in our own heritage. Although we do not deny that Jesus came along among the Jews and that his religion became a worldwide religion, we do claim that God has come many times among our people and that Afrocentricity can become widely acceptable also, right? The other page 55 says that talks about this transformation of a lot of our heroes and sheroes in our struggle, but it says such a transforming power is necessary in order for us to capture the true essence of our souls once again. Okay, so such a transformation power is necessary in order for us to capture the true essence of our souls once again. There are 5 levels of awareness. The first level is called skin recognition.
Mm-hmm.
It is when a person recognizes that his or her skin is black and on her heritage, his or her skin is black and on her or her heritage is black, but cannot grasp any further reality. The second level is environmental recognition. In this level, the person, I don't want to have to read. The third level is personality awareness, right? My problem with this is that we have more than 200,000 years of more than 200,000 years of Africans being Africans and having no real, how can I say, issue with skin recognition. That's a modern issue that happened as you know the invasions of Africa came. I do accept the fact that became a reality, but that is not an ancient reality. That is something because of white supremacy and racism. The Afrocentricity. The fifth level is when the person becomes totally changed to a conscious level of involvement in the struggle of his or her mind, mental liberation. My point of this is to look at these things kind of like us scientifically, right? And to see what changes, what stays, what could be measured, right? I think those things are important. I think that some of the stuff that I have read, it can't be measured. And sometimes we're thinking about two different things. One thing
we are
about Afrocentricity, and the other thing is we might be talking about African-centeredness without actually defining if there's any changes, any differences. But I know one thing that the first level is called, where it says the first level is called skin recognition, and the other part that says that God speaks to us is problematic because the God part can't be measured at all.
Well, so I don't think you measure it like that, though, Brother Reggie. Just to be so, I think we're dealing with two different things, right? As I told Dr. Mayat the other day when I was on the phone with her, things don't have to be real to be measured. is this impact on you. So there's various ways, like, so you can be talking about a theory, and I think that's what you, and I think you're correct to separate these things, right? And then the ideology that's also there, which can often sometimes be, it can be kind of sloppy. Yes, it can. The theory itself is not in that book, because that book is for the theory is in the book, but there's so much more in the book, right? So that's when you get to the idea where he says a meta theory. It's not only a theory, as we spoke about earlier, it's a meta theory. So then there's what Brother Ankh says, there's this philosophy behind it, but it's this ideology that goes with it as well. But the theory itself, or let's say we use the whole thing, and then we measure it. For example, you can measure one's level of spirituality. You can measure one's level of things that are just not necessarily tangible. So you can measure these things and see how they actually help or hurt the person or the people or the group.
You mean like race? You mean like race is a social construct? It's not a biological feature, but it's caused harm and destruction to African people that was real. That's what you basically said.
Absolutely.
Arkansas on point.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah,
so it doesn't have to be real to be measured. You know, but the ideology does impact you. Like, for example, inside of William Cross's Black identity model, he talks about anti-white sentiments. And the person with anti-white sentiments, in my own research, shows that that person really struggles on so many levels. And what anti-white sentiments is, it goes along with miseducation and self-hate, is those three are internalized forms of racism. And these have negative outcomes on us mentally and physiologically. Anti-white sentiment is something you measure, which is a idea in one's mind, but it impacts them psychologically and physically.
I don't have a problem with what you're saying. What I'm saying is what is in this book in 80, and then what might have changed to fix some of the things that was actually changed. And then there is better words to try to measure spirituality. No.
Well, you can't measure it. That's not.
You can. I mean, I gotta. Right. I'm telling you, you can. Okay, look up.
You can measure personality.
Well, okay. Look up Ralph Piedmont, y'all scientists, right? Look up Ralph Piedmont, right? And look up his Aspire scale. It's assessment of spirituality and religious sentiments, whatever it's called. I can't remember the acronym, but it's Aspires. In fact, I've been trained to even assess the scales. This is not even a black guy, so don't put it on Afrocentrism.
What's the name of the scale?
Aspires, ASPIRES. Now, what is measuring is, it's not like you're measuring like the way that we think we're measuring it, right? It's not like it's a real thing. It's after doing research, he came up with the model, not the other way around. After doing sampling of lots of people on what it is that spirituality is, he came up and he went through different types of statistical analysis. This is what psychometricians do. They measure psychological constructs. You have social constructs, you have psychological constructs. You can measure love if you define it clear enough.
Right, if you define it.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, and I appreciate this, is why I think what Dr. Mayette is saying is sometimes we don't know. And the thing is important to understand that we can measure social constructs. We can measure psychological, like depression is not a thing. It's not something you can touch. But when you go into your doctor's office, they say, have you felt hopeless? How many days have you felt this way? Have you, all these different things. So you measure, because the statistical analysis says these group of people who experience these type of symptoms, the majority of them fall within, let's say, a low level of depression, a moderate level of depression, or severe level of depression, or no depression at all.
Okay. But I think that you're measuring personality. I think you're because every individual's unique, right? And every individual has personality, and as being a clinician as you are, you would analyze that particular person. To analyze a whole group of people and say that you could analyze the spirituality of the people, then we have to get into the term that the African really didn't actually use. Europeans map their thinking, their religious thinking on Africa, when if you look at Africa's basics, it's just it's really ancestor worship. It's certainly ideas of connection with nature, right? And sometimes they anthropomorphize animals and themselves to animals, but still having supernatural powers or supernatural powers, but those are of nature, whether they are the sun, stars, or animals. The Europeans come along with their concepts, and they map it on, and then they give us words like spirituality, when we had there are other terms that are used by Europeans to describe us, but more closely like animal.
I agree with you, Brother Reggie, but I don't think the word itself is. We can change the word if we want to. We can change the word, because actually, let's change it. Let's change it. The way that he looks at it, he calls it the numinous.
Who looks at it?
Ralph Piedmont, right?
Okay,
Ralph
but we're
Piedmont.
talking about Afrocentrism.
Well, I'm talking about spirituality at this moment, because that's what we're talking about, right? Spirituality. So, and I'm telling you, and what I'm saying is, a thing doesn't have to be something tangible to measure, as long as enough, huh?
I agree.
So it doesn't have to.
We don't even have a good definition on spirit. How do you measure something we don't even have a definition?
Well, I think that's a project. You know, because what I'm saying is,
what's the definition? Because our spirituality was backwards and devilish and against God. They spirituality, Christianity is supposed to be a spirituality.
No. See, there's a difference in there's a difference in the way that you do it in like, let's say, the psychology. There's actually there's whole divisions on in journals around the religion of psychology and psychology of religion and different things like that, which aren't pseudoscientific. What I'm saying is, you have to define it again. As I said, you can operationalize things. And through his research, with, I can't even remember how many people, I'm saying lots of people.
Aspires.
Right. Yeah. Thousands of people, maybe. He did a major studies, and it's ongoing, right? And what it measures is that religion is the set of principles, dealing with the church or the mosque or the temple or the religion itself. But as Brother Reggie is saying, I think he's onto something. And what Dr. Piedmont says is this: what he's measuring is personality, which is the sixth dimension of personality, which is spirituality.
Yeah, all that spiritual flying through there, I ain't gonna be able to do that one, because I already know.
I
once
can't
you
do that one. I'm over here.
once you locked into there, the
spirituality
he talking about, he ain't talking about traditional voodoo. He ain't gonna say voodoo.
No.
He ain't gonna do that. He ain't doing none of that.
Voodoo is a religion.
It's a spirituality. That's the name of the deity. Voodoo. That's a deity. That's spiritual. That's African traditional spirituality. They're gonna think all that's trash.
You define it though, but is that a system?
Yeah, voodoo is definitely a system. It's called medicine.
For the sake of conversation,
it's called medicine. You know that, right? It's called medicine.
But
because part of the tradition is traditional herbs and medicine.
Yeah.
It's how to heal the community.
But for the sake of conversation, what I'm saying is, just for us to be on the same whatever page we're on, we have to agree to the definition.
We can't, because there's no scholarly consensus on. There's no definition.
There's no scholarly consensus on a lot of things. That's
no.
Not new.
I'm saying on spirituality. Like,
well, I'm saying on. There's no scholarly consensus on love. There's no scholarly consensus on depression. There's not a lot. What I'm saying is, there's not
there's chemicals. No, there's a scholarly consensus that we're actually talking about the chemical workup of Homo sapiens. When you talk about morality, when you talk about love, all these things is based off of certain chemicals like oxytocin. There's certain chemicals that actually. That's why a mother, when a baby is born, there's a certain chemical release. All right, that makes her cleave to that baby. You can't even teach that. That's why some of us will reverse and kill a baby because they're not getting that. Seriously.
But some people call that love. Some people call it something different. I got what you're saying.
Yeah.
I got you. You can, yes. But what I'm saying, check out the research before you say that.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I got you. But I know, I already know that's wild.
Well, I'm saying it's not
a legitimate psychologist, and that's why psychology tethers between a soft science. They call it soft science.
But we're talking about psychometrics.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm not going to sit up here and fight you over something I haven't read yet. So I don't want to make that mistake. Most people in the community make that mistake. So I want to make sure I say I'm not going to fight you. I'm not. The first time I heard that man's name. I just can't do the spiritual part no matter what that man name is.
It's true.
I never heard of Monk.
Yeah, let me read that. So you got me. Let's get back to the topic though. So Afrocentrism and Afrocentricity, Doc brought something to my attention that I'm sure none of y'all have even heard. Go ahead, Doc. Explain what's the difference you think the problem with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, when we think of Afrocentricity, and I think Dr. Assar did a wonderful job explaining what the framework is, right? And excuse my voice, I've been lecturing all day at the school, but he did a wonderful job explaining what the framework is. But if you really research the documentation, right, on Afrocentricity, some people refer to, they use Afrocentricity and Afrocentrism interchangeably. And some people do, and then some people say, well, it's a difference. Some people say, well, Afrocentrism, which is utilized mainly by Europeans, people who are opponents to like the pseudoisms espoused by Black people, they lump it in and say that's Afrocentrism, right? But then you may have somebody like myself or Dr. Assar come on and we say, oh, we think that it's interchangeable, it's synonymous. But you do have European people who say, no, it's a difference between Afrocentricity and Afrocentrism. They'll say that Afrocentricity is a theoretical framework, whereas Afrocentrism are pseudoisms espoused by basically Black people. So you do have these arguments happening within the community. That's what I was saying to you on the phone.
So it's two different things, but no one can actually tell the difference because it has, at least to this point, I haven't heard nobody actually explain it. I think that's important. And what I do know is the things that we do should be clear enough. We don't have to keep explaining over and over again, because the mistake all of them made was putting Africans in America. They did that, and they did it by the help of reliance on too many Europeans. I'm saying we're at the stage of our development now as African Americans where you in school, you done been in school, you got your doctorate, we got kids that's going to school, that we need to be part of anthropology. You need to be part of the hard sciences right now. But we can go to the Almac finds, right? This is what I'm talking about. Young individuals, young anthropologists, look like me and you, can go straight to Mexico and write their thesis on it and bring it back to us and say, this is what this is. We shouldn't have to be people that are respected in the community. We shouldn't have to be fighting them over whether Africans was in America prior to colonialism. It's nonsense. We shouldn't. That boat has sailed. As a matter of fact, my fight has always been this: I would never call John Henry Clark a pseudo, Dr. Bennett pseudo. She can't the opposite pseudo. I wouldn't, because they use the scholarly information of that time. It just so happened to be Europeans, because they was the only ones that had the money and the funding to do it. And they were saying that Africans was in America. Okay? Based on the person that found the Almac head himself said it was an African. So I'm blaming these generations that followed that. I'm blaming the elders right now that's doing that. I'm saying that they're pseudo. And so what I'm saying is, with back to Professor Dave, what Professor Dave is used to, he is used to his community only pick up in the ideas that was right. You was the first person that told me that, Doc. Like, you don't just throw stuff in the trash can. You don't do that. You don't continue along the ideas that they got wrong. You just expound on the things that they got right. That's what Professor Dave is used to. In this community, it's the opposite. The stuff that they got wrong. Dr. Ben Diop, they talk crazy about it. One side is talking crazy about Dr. Ben Diop's, right? Trying to combat the crazy people that's espousing on all the things they got wrong. And there's a wild fight when in truth, those brothers' books are in the library and no, in the museum, and Reggie can talk about that. And they're not espousing the ideas that got wrong. They're talking about the things that got right. And we got to get used to that. There's a certain level of maturity to say, you know what? My elder was wrong right here. So we're not going to talk about that no more. That is dead. Let's talk about what they did do. Right? So right. I clearly understand that. I just wanted to make that point and be sharp. We need to get sharper. The things that they got wrong is dead. They got it wrong. There ain't no Africans in America. And that takes it to FBA. It's a whole new movement now. FBA. Get out of here with that pseudoscientific idea. It's a pseudoscientific idea, FBA. It is not based off of truth. It is based off of invalid ideas and concepts. And I'm saying nobody should be howling and screaming that. That's not real.
So would you say pseudoscience or would you say pseudo history?
I said it's a pseudo-scientific history because they're using a biological organism, saying that there's a black indigenous African, there's a black indigenous native, you know what I'm saying, that's in America prior to anybody. And then there's the ethnogenesis between the Africans that were ported over here in the slave trip, and they mixed with this indigenous black people, and that's the ethnogenesis, right? Not to be big up to Chilembe. He made this clear in this conversation, Doc. He said there's an ethnogenesis when you get the tribe, the different African clans and tribes. That's an ethnogenesis.
I agree
different
with
ethnic groups. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I agree
right. So we want to know there is an ethnogenesis that is legitimate, and those different clans and tribes mixed with native indigenous people. Right. That's on the record. But the pseudoscience is when they say there was an indigenous black tribe in America and they use all the same work. And you're going to play them clips. They use all the same work to reach their conclusions that the Africa was here first. No, that's pseudoscientific. We don't have to do that. I'm saying
we don't have to do that. But,
go ahead.
But let me say this. Why would you think that all FBA is espousing something like that, Ankh? I'm just saying, like, if you talk to every single person in FBA or claims FBA, Dr. Assar said it earlier. You have factions in every school of thought. You'll find one. Think about Pan-Africanism right now. Think about that. You get 20 so-called Pan-Africanists together and you ask them what Pan-Africanism is, you'll get 20 different answers. I promise you. I promise you. So I say all that to say, Ankh, if you talk to, no, I'm just saying, so we can't say, oh, the FBA, man, that's what they all think.
That's different, though. You know that's different. That's a different thing. A Pan-African thing actually had a Pan-African conference. We know exactly at its inception, we know what it is. And we can tell when you deviating away from it.
Can I add to this a little bit?
Right.
That's why social science is important, Uncle, if you want to call it soft science or whatever, because most of us, I'm going to tell you, even in lots of the hard, quote unquote, don't understand statistics.
Yes.
So we get confused what the hell we talking about. So even to make an assumption, or sometimes we just be saying things, we don't have the data to support it. So we have to understand statistics. Lots of us struggle with statistics. We in social science, we understand that it's never 100% thing.
No, it
has to meet a certain thresholds. There's a alpha level set. Most of us don't know what alpha level is. So there's things we have to do that makes it scientifically significant or statistically significant.
So back to the Pan-African thing. Hold on, Reggie. I'm gonna let you in. I don't want to lose my thought. So we know what Pan-Africanism is. Ain't no pseudo in that nowhere. So even though there's different variations I'm saying you got people who now are acting like
there's some pseudo.
Right. With the very inception of Pan-Africanism was saying support science, though. I could read the documents.
I read the documents.
Right. So people now are pseudoscientists and they call themselves that. I get it. But see, that's different than FBA. FBA is like a Nuwapian. If you say you are a Nuwapian, there are things that go with the Nuwapians. I used to say, well, I don't believe in aliens, but wait a minute, that's part of being a Nuwapian. You got the quote unquote Sumerian doctrine. You got the quote unquote alien doctrine. All that baggage comes with that. Its very inception is pseudoscientific. So FBA at its very inception is misinformation and it's pseudoscientific. So if you stand up and say, but I'm an FBA, but I don't agree with that, well, then you don't agree with FBA because FBA is simple. Let me finish my point. FBA is clear. There's an African that was brought over on a slave ship. this is FBA now, right? And the African ran into an indigenous black African and created ethnogenesis. That's the FBA. Now, if you start saying something else, that's not actually FBA. That's something you making up in your mind because you know we're a bunch of crap.
Nah, I disagree.
Right, well,
You want to make everything. You're a black and white person, and I get it.
On that,
You're like,
on that.
no. It's this or that. No. You a black and white person.
That's
Either
not
this or
true.
that. Yes,
That's
you are.
not true.
It's
just
some
on
gray in
that.
it. It's some
It's
gray in
black
it,
and white. Tariq
it's some
told you
gray
what I
in it.
believe. You don't believe Tariq? I believe him. I think that man put together a hell of an idea and it's pseudoscience. I agree with him.
And I agree. Look, I agree. He's so stupid. I agree that it is some pseudo history in there because some of the stuff that they espouse, some of that stuff that I'm like that they say, I'm like, no, y'all crazy. I'm like, y'all crazy. But what I'm saying is to say all or most of them, if you claim this is what you I can't.
So how can I separate that?
I can't underscore that. I can't underscore that, Brother Reggie.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate your kindness, Dr. Mott. And Dr. Mott was absolutely right on her understanding of Afrocentrism, right? That was what the opponents of all African thinking use to put you into even if you write a paper that like, for example, some people might call me African centric or African centered, and look at my paper, and if you Google my paper that I wrote on Kemet, they would say I'm I'm using Afrocentrism and I'm
right.
And I go back to those models, I parse and give it another prompt, and I say, well, how can I be that when I use only European transcriptions of the language? And then they say, oh, I'm sorry. I said, no, but why'd you call me that? You called me that because I just referenced some African scholars like Obenga and Diop. So I'm not supposed to reference it. So Dr. Ma was absolutely correct on that. Afrocentricity is about Dr. Molefe Asante's model and his wife Karimo model. And then what we can do with it is we can analyze the model to see what we can actually get from this model, right? And then there is Dr. John Henry Clarke, who is a historian, scholar of like those of his time period. Well, not all of them, because some of them was a little pseudo. But Dr. Clarke's thing is, why don't we learn about the African from the African point of view? Meaning, let's bring in the Africans to speak about their culture. Let's look at their history, not what the Europeans say happened, but let's go back and see if we can get some primary accounts. So Dr. John Henry Clarke, he introduced us to Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, even though my professor, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, had already met Diop in Switzerland, right? Well, when he was in Switzerland, he went to France and listened to Dr. Diop, but it was Dr. Clarke said, we have somebody who is a scientist, who's a PhD, who has an African voice, right? And let's listen to him as we to be a focus to see what he says is right or wrong. Let's just challenge ourselves. So the African Origin Civilization, he wrote that book in 1956. And then he wrote The Civilization of Barbarism and a bunch of other papers. I was lucky enough to actually work with Dr. Clarke, Dr. Jeffries, Shilingi Ngimi, to bring the translated copy of Civilization or Barbarism into English. I was part of the team. I wasn't a translator, I was a technical person. I had them write that whole book on a PC. Watch this. On a PC that didn't use Microsoft, because Microsoft wasn't even the operating system of Microsoft was competing against other operating systems. But nevertheless, they wrote that whole book on a PC, not on a selective that typewriter at the time. I forgot the name of the selective or something. No, they wrote it on a PC so that they can edit it. My whole point of it is Dr. John Henry Clarke says, let's study the African by listening to the African and African experts instead of simply relying on the European. So Afrocentrism is Afrocentricity is Dr. Molefi's construct, theoretical construct that changes over time. And you are correct that I have I'm not going to say outdated, but I have a formative book. You have you have a later book. I would like to see some changes. This whole Afrocentrism, this whole concept of Afrocentrism is an attack, right? And we could look at what is being attacked, and then we can look at what we're talking about as being African centered. So, and then we can look at the goals and objectives. So I am happy to be here and talk and listen to the constructs that are made, but there are some differences. There are some differences in some thinking, and those differences we can hash out. But I don't want us to agree with, let's say, what we want to believe about these things instead of tracking down what some of these things actually say, right? To separate our beliefs about things to what the thing says, and that's I'll listen. I'm interested in listen, but if you're going to take your own work, which is very fine work and very good thinking, right, and apply it to some things where here God talks to the people like Nat Turner.
You trip.
That part.
Drop the link, Doc. We at that time. I know you won't. I know how you get
thank
that.
you so
Can I
much.
say two things? Two things.
Yes.
So one, I want to suggest, I want to maintain that I too debate with African-centered scholars. Okay.
Same
all right.
here.
I think even in the field of psychology, I'm writing a book now because I think we go too far out there in the ethereal is more important than the physical sometimes. So, but I will argue that Dr. Amos Wilson wasn't one of those, right? And there's plenty of other people that's not one of those, right? I also say the attack on African-centered thought was always look. Dr. Ben comes up in the minds of people like Dave. Dr. Clarke comes up in the mind. They are the poster children. Okay, they are Dr. Diop. If you even put it in Chat GPT right now, it's going to tell you who the foundational people are. It's going to tell you.
Put it in there. Let him put it on there. Let him put it in there. Let him put it in there.
Say Diop.
Do it up. Put it in there.
Ben, Clarke, Ani.
No. So I'm not. This ain't gonna be the show. I'm not gonna tear down no elders. I'm not gonna pick them apart because then it's gonna be time they're gonna pick us apart. What I will say is white people have done the same thing that black people have done. They have mischaracterized people. And let me tell you why.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay?
Absolutely.
They have mischaracterized who are Afrocentric, all that. So let's deal with John Henry Clarke and his work. He has a book. Who betrayed the African world revolution? It's a question mark. I got that book. It says, in other speeches, Dr. Clarke discusses the concept of Afrocentricity, emphasizing its importance in understanding African history and culture. While he advocates for an African-centered perspective, he also critiques the superficial expression of cultural identity. In one of his speeches, he remarks, "I do not wear an afro. I am not an Afrocentric." So I think that's important. So if John Henry Clarke is saying he's not Afrocentric, then why are we allowing white people to come back behind him and say Dr. Ben and them to say that's not true? The reason I brought Reggie up here because Reggie actually walked with them people. Them people wasn't espousing them idea. Matter of fact, they wasn't even dealing with each other. He'll tell you that. So I don't like that. I think we should keep our history sacred. I think the people that walk with the elders should keep it that way and have these serious conversations. Because I don't appreciate Europeans saying who is and who not. They don't allow us to do it. They do not allow us to come in their community and say who is who. They shut you down immediately. Matter of fact, they shut down your whole program. The Jewish community do not allow you to tell them that they not Jews. I wish you would. You're going to lose a whole lot of money. Yeah, we need to have that type of power.
Let me say this, Ankh. There are arguments about that. And Dr. Clarke said you know, don't call me Afrocentric. I don't wear Afro. So in the African Center community, there are debates. Like people say, well, don't call me Afrocentric, call me Afri-centric. Google it right now while we're live. So it's a discussion. Google Afri-centric.
Yeah.
So, you know, some people are like, nah, I don't want to use, you know, I don't have Afro, don't call me Afrocentric. But, you know, so then some people say, well, Afri-centric or African-centered. But I'm telling you, in the community,
right?
we typically, they're synonymous to a lot of us who are actually in that space. That's what I'm saying to you.
It's even in the literature. It's
African-centered and Afrocentric. Ask Reggie. Did the elders think that was the same thing they was doing, or what? Come on,
I didn't say the elders. You're twisting my words. You're not listening.
The people that walked it.
You're listening. You're hearing me. You're not listening to me. I just said, and I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. I just said,
I heard you, Doc,
that I understand what Dr. John Henry Clarke said when he said, "I'm not an Afrocentric. I don't wear an Afro." So then I moved on to say, that's why presently there are people in the African Center community who are debating those terms. That's why a lot of them, they'll say, don't call me Afrocentric, call me Africentric, because of John Henry Clarke's sentiments. That's what I'm saying. I never said that the elders, all of them claim to be Afrocentric. That was never a point that I made.
I know it wasn't.
I just said it wasn't my point. I just said because he made that statement, it sparked discussions in that space on the term. So then people proposed the term Afrocentric, African-centered. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but they didn't say no Afri nothing. They said they was African-centered. Leave it right there. That's all I'm saying.
I think
we
I
have
agree.
a host of new words that people are creating. The best practice is to go back and find the original authors and say what they say. Just to the audience, I do respect Dr. Molefe Kite Asante, right? I'm only talking about elements in his first edition that when people actually read it, the scholars read it, right? There were some problems with it. And some people misread his work because it's a theoretical model, and then a lot of mystical stuff popped out of it. So when Ronoka Rashidi was making everybody in the world black, is interesting. Everybody was black. The Chinese, Japanese, everybody in the world was black.
Bananas.
Right? And then the FBA comes back, and then they want to disregard all of those other people and say that the most important people in the world is the foundational Black Americans, right?
Crazy.
And that even though that stuff is tied, nothing is written to the difference between the two doctors here, right? You'll write your points. That's permanent, right? You cite your sources, right? That makes it correct. What we have here is a collage of thinking that sounds good, but nothing is really written, and it's not a theoretical model. It's not scientific, it's not theoretical, and I have a problem with that because when I look at it, Black achievement is really tied into white achievement. Their whole foundational Black America has something to do with white America, and that somehow white America should appreciate us. That's not that, and then only appreciate us that was their horse, not appreciate and let's separate ourselves from the African populations that came in the 1900s, right, to replenish us, right, after the Black codes and the reconstruction. No, forget it. Thank you so much. That's what the FBA is saying to these people. Thank you so much. We're going to make you our horse. What we're going to do is not talk about your achievement. We're not going to talk about what Garvey did. We're not going to talk about that. Well, Malcolm is half FBA. Well, half FBA. I thought he was an African. His mother was an African, dropped off to another island. When did we start talking about and making ourselves important based on the ports that the Europeans enslaved us in? So I appreciate this conversation. Certainly I enjoyed the conversation. I was just critical, and you're correct to say that I'm reading the original book, but the reason why this is important to me is because this is when the conversation between the scholars started happening.
Yeah.
Right here.
No, you're
Later,
right.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you were right about that. And the stuff that you read, it is problematic. It is problematic, you know, in that particular edition. But people present a model, and what do you do with the model? You fine tune it. You update your stuff, and that's fine. You know, that's
you gotta
fine.
send the memo out to the rest of them, though. Ain't nobody don't nobody know that. They still screaming the last stuff. That's my whole point. Nobody knows it.
Brother, I get what you're saying. Let me tell you why. Because I've been angry like that. You saying how am I calling you? I'm telling you, I do it every week, and I call myself a minister, right?
Mm-hmm.
And guess what?
What?
I ain't teaching nothing. They want to do spirit. They want to do spooky stuff.
Yeah.
And the reason why they want to do spooky stuff. I'm not a spooky person, but if it works for you, it works for you. It's just things that you believe that, as long as it's working for you, it's fine with me. But when it's not working for you and us, that's a problem. Yeah. And that's even the way you take it as a psychotherapist. It's okay until it ain't working for you and us. You can believe in Obatala. I work with people every day who do all the Ifa tradition. Please don't be looking at this, y'all, because I don't believe none of it. But what I'm saying is, I don't believe. Look, I work with Christians. I work with everybody. I have to work with them where they are.
Absolutely.
But the reality is, if it's not causing them any trouble, I'm not messing with it. But if it's causing them trouble, I gotta mess with it. The first time okay, y'all know Dr. Ray Higgins, right? I came under that thing, right? But the thing was, what he talked about, the facts and all this other thing. But when I sat in a room with a young man, and I'm sitting in the room, I'm in my internship now, my second year of internship, and at Job Corps doing my clinicals. And the young man said, the only reason that I haven't killed myself is because I believe that is a sin. You think I was taking it away from him?
No.
No. But what I'm saying, that's an individual anecdotal thing. But again, I want to be clear. Look. I agree with Reggie. I agree with you, Brother Ankh. I agree with Dr. Mayat. I'm saying it's a this, that, and there's always going to be a fight. And I'm glad you on the hard fight. You do the hard work. But what look, I think I said it to you before. You do the hard work. You know what I mean? But I don't agree with many. And when I finish writing my book, I know that a lot of the psychological people in the field who don't believe in quantitative analysis in science as pertains to research and in psychology, they're gonna be a little flustered with me, and they're gonna feel challenged. I'm talking about our elders. I'm not saying the names because they are esteemed elders in our community right now today, and they walk with the Dr. Benz and the Dr. Clarks and all those other people too. They still out here. I'm talking about especially in the field of psychology. We and Dr. Patricia Newton, rest in power. What she said to me one day, we was talking, and she said one of her greatest contentions with the Association of Black Psychologists is that they don't do enough. Well, let me say what she said. She said they do a lot of conceptual and theoretical papers, but they don't test them. And one of the few that did it was Dr. Kobe Cambone.
Yeah, he did. His work is out there. He did. But think about it. He was an act. Well, he was. Well,
yeah.
A lot of them are, but
I don't want to say the other names. They academic. They do papers, but they don't. But we have this thing. It's part of the trauma where quantitative is problematic. Anything that has to do with numbers and math and all these type of things, it is a problem because, and it's, to some degree, it does serve as a problem. And I understand why they do it, but you can't throw everything out. As Dr. Amos Wilson said, don't throw the baby out with the wash water. Because it has been weaponized against us.
Yeah, I ain't doing that.
I want to show you all real quick.
You gonna drop the link to right, Doc?
Yeah, I am. I'm matter of fact, let me show this real quick. This is who, when people think of Afrocentrism.
Not me. I don't think of him at all.
People, I'm telling you, this who comes.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Dogon tribe. According to the Aboriginals, the indigenous Aboriginals of Australia, according to the indigenous peoples of the Americas, North America and South America, we're talking about people that have been here for a very long time, inhabiting these lands for a very, very long time. People came to this planet, according to them, in all their records left behind, and still in their current traditions. Today, people came here from another planet, other planets, other star systems, and began to teach human beings specific things, one of them being building techniques. And so by having a master architect come down and teaching these building techniques and these advanced technologies, people then learned from them and began to build these structures. It wasn't that aliens said, you know what, I think we want to do all the work and build all this stuff ourselves. They really passed down the information to people, and then people began to build them. And what's interesting is people, the Dogon tribe, according to...
I just want to say that that's what people, this is what Dave and them are talking about right now. Dave and them are talking about this stuff right here.
The Bartholin gland.
Remember that,
Yep, that was our lecture.
And you say the light was in the sperm, and you say the light was in the ramen, and you talking about the sperm, okay, if you talking about seminal fluid, then my wife would simply say, hey, the Bartholin gland secretes the same seminal fluid as the male's bulbourethral gland. The male's gland that secretes the seminal fluid is called the bulbourethral gland. The female's is called the bulb. So if your point is, because you can produce sperm, that makes you great, that puts it down. All my wife was saying is, if that's the case, women produce sperm too.
That's what they think, I'm just telling you, when they think of Afrocentric.
He was talking to you. He was talking to you.
That's what they think of. Then you had.
You know that though, right? You know he was talking to you.
What, women produce sperm too?
No, he was talking to you because you corrected him, and he got all mad because you were supposed to debate him on it and all that. And then he started doing them wild videos,
Those
trying to
stupid
act like,
videos.
yeah, he shifted it off to his wife. But hold on, but go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish, and then we're going.
I got you. I'm looking for the young Pharaoh clip. He in here too.
What is
talking
that?
about women? Talking about women could take bone marrow and shove it in their vaginas to have kids. Hold on.
Oh man, did he?
Yeah, he's around here somewhere.
The more ridiculous.
Oh,
the
it
more
is.
they
It
listen
is.
to
It is.
I know y'all get ready to say, hold on, Sean, nigga, you say that. Y'all want to say
She here too.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get him. I got him.
No, I said she's here in the building.
Oh, she in the building?
Yeah,
Shout out
Sutek.
to Melanin Sutek. Where's Melanin Sutek? That they said secretes seminal fluid as sperm. Now sisters are saying that bone marrow has sperm in it. And if you don't believe me, I'm getting ready to roll the tape. I gotta roll the tape,
Turn it up.
Turn that up. We need that turned up. Where's not you, Sean Day, is the volume of the brother. Take it back. Here we go.
There was an eye on the planet right now. The woman would be able to impregnate herself. On sperm out of her bone marrow and impregnating herself. You do not even a man to continue on life right now. We are just making procreation easier.
So they turn it off. I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take it. Just push pause. I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take it. You said, I know, sis. I know it's foolery.
So you had Pharaoh running around saying women could take bone marrow and shove it in their vaginas. He's saying over here, 85% of white folks don't have a soul. They're not human. Remember that? Remember all that stuff?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, remember all that? Hold on. Then he went on Nick Cannon. Where did black people come from? And all kinds of stuff. So when they think about Afrocentric folks or African-centered or Afrocentric, this is what they think of. A black person espousing pseudoism. That's all I wanted to say, Ankh.
So, but you know, I can play the clips of where they got it from. They got it from the people you claim like Ronika Rushidi. That's where they got that from. I could play the clips of all them saying that, and that's what that next generation got, right? And that's when I stepped up to the forefront and say, why y'all promoting that? right? 15 years ago, Doc, I was already aware this situation is bubbled all the way up now. 15 years ago, Doc, okay, Doc was saying, man, just because they the elders don't mean they can say wild stuff.
I remember.
Oh, look at that. I can't believe you. Because I knew it was going to be this. And look what the whole thing spawned. It spawned people like Polite. It spawned people like Young Pharaoh. And
Nature
come on,
boy.
man. They got it honest. They got it honest, man. So I'm saying this next generation following us, they ain't got no excuses, yo, because we got the back and forth where they can actually see the back and forth and see what the level is now. We wasn't afforded that. I had to figure out what the level was. I had to be able to determine what was making sense, what wasn't, who was Phil Valentine, who was Bobby Hemming, who was Delbert Blair, who was Dr. Ben, because they all said the same thing. You got the Claude Anderson clip? This is gonna prove it.
Yeah, pull it up on. Pull it up.
Are you gonna pull it up? All right, bet. I'm gonna pull it up. Yeah. All right. I'll start with this. Here, they got it honest, man. They got it from esteemed elders. See, I don't have a problem with it. Because as a matter of fact, if I said something that's been so wrong and wild, I don't have a problem with you fixing that. All right, let's see. Here you go. Yeah, trust me. I'll be good. I'll be smiling in my daggone grave. If y'all correct something after I'm gone and I was wrong, I'm like, that's right. I'll be the first one to cheer you. All right, here you go.
Is to come together and unite around the strongest thing in the country, which is blackness. And you didn't hear me saying about African American. Native Black Americans are the strongest thing. And now you see, well, this Native Indians, there ain't no such thing as the Native Indians. We're in the Indians in the country. They came in here about 10,000 years after Black folk were here already. And they interbred with Black folk and create what you call Native Americans, but they're getting all the advantages and benefits. Everybody benefits from Blackness except Black people. Black folk have enriched every group on earth except their own people. And so that's your problem, is that they're running from Blackness because Blackness is powerful and whites know it. And they don't want to be, and it's power. And if Blacks were ever to come together and practice group economics and group politics, they can dominate this country.
So there you go. He said we was here 10,000 years before anybody. That's what Pharaoh and them got that from, man. So we can't tell. We can't tell. Who Ronika Rashidi made everybody Black. So how can we act with the? And so when other people who are not in our community look back, they clump it all together. What else would you do?
They do lump it all together. That's who they think. That's who they think are Afrocentrists, people that talk like this. And so anyway.
That's Claude Anderson, though. That's top notch. What you gonna say? What you gonna do?
I love Dr. Claude Anderson. And
right,
I'm a fan.
Too.
I'm a fan of him. I'm a supporter of Powernomics and Black labor, white wealth. I just think he needs to stick to economics, right? You know, no disrespect. He just needs to stick to economics. Economics. That's what.
Let me play this clip. You funny. That's the point.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to stick to what they could do.
Exactly.
We had a guy that came in, Charles Darwin, came in and says about the Darwinism, survival of the fittest and the strongest. He came out with a whole concept called the survival of the species in 1859, right at the time of the Civil War. He came out with this whole concept of Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest and the strongest. And what he said, Dr. Watkins, is what is the greatest in the scale of acceptability and power and wealth? Is it the mountain or is it the valley and the ditch? Or he said, and he says, and he did it with animals, saying, what is the most powerful and the highest in the academic scale of intellectual achievement and humanity and humanism? Is it more important for the elephant, or is it a blade of grass compared to, or an amoeba? Mm-hmm. Which ranks higher in power? And so they got the human. So he came up with this thing wrote these concepts about Darwinism. And so obviously, an elephant is more important in the evolutionary change than an amoeba or a rat or a mouse. And so they did. So at that time, since Blacks own nothing and whites own and control everything, they say, hey, obviously whites are superior to Blacks. If we were not superior to you all, you wouldn't be in the ditch and we wouldn't be on top of the mountain. He excluded the fact that you've been systematically deprived, misused, and abused, okay, through the doctrine of unequal exchange.
Yeah, he butchered evolution.
Yeah, like come on, man. Darwin did none of that. Like
Yeah,
what
he
we
didn't. That's not true.
that's not nowhere near. Darwinism was created after Darwin was dead.
Yeah.
Darwin didn't say survival of the fittest. That then somebody it was survival of the fit genes. That's what it was talking about. That's what it was. So
Yeah,
I'm saying
that's misinformation.
so my point is when people go back and look at that, they clump everybody together because they saying the same things. I'm saying everybody, not you, Doc, and I keep saying it. I keep saying it, and everybody ain't damn Chilembe. Y'all the last of the daggone Mohicans, because I ain't doing it. Y'all can go ahead and carry that toy. I'm not doing it. Right? I love African Americans. I love African people. I feel like that African Americans, if you get enough money, you should travel abroad to Africa first, right? And you should help out those marginalized communities. You know that the Christians go in there and build a well. We should get together and go in the village and build a damn well. I agree to that. But all this flammery nonsense, man, come on, man. Look, at the end of the day, it is what it is, man. If it look like a duck and it quack like a duck, it's a daggone duck. They need to get that straight. Get that straight. Whatever we talking about should align with science. That's what I'm saying. In 2025, and I'm gonna stand on that.
It just don't pay. That's the problem. It's the marketability of this outer space, this flat Earth.
It's more money. I agree.
It's wild.
Everything was flat.
Yeah, see,
the people enjoy that. They smoke their weed, their mushrooms. They sit back and what they call relax, and they take all this stuff in. But if it has to do with solving a problem, and you doctors know this well, we don't want to do that unless we're forced to, right? If we outside of that, we don't want, but we have to do it now. So that's why scientific literacy is
very
so
important,
because it's solving problems, right? It's just not being status quo. So this whole FBA delineating from our small Black population in America, right?
Small.
We're gonna delineate from a portion of us, right? That makes us weaker, right? Because the ones that they're calling FBA, has this foundational relationship with white folks, because that's what it's really saying. And they enslaved us. So how can I say we're in this? You psychologists know this thing, like we're a battered woman, right? We're a battered woman. We love the master. We hate him for what he did, but we love him too, right? What we're gonna do is we're going to attack other Black people, but numbers are important because that's how they're winning. But they don't count. So Dr. Saw was correct. We don't count. We don't do statistical analysis. Everybody want to talk about, when you want to talk about how can we put a real reparations argument together, everybody should know we can't sue for our ancestors. You can't sue for your great-grandmother because you don't have rights to her state. So you have no standing.
We can sue. We can sue for.
Brother
Reggie, we can sue for though, Reggie. We can actually sue that the way they achieved their wealth was through illegal measures, because kidnapping has always been illegal.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can sue. Yeah, that's why I didn't you can sue, Brother Reggie.
No, you cannot, Dr. Mod. The last
brother Reggie. No. What I'm saying is, Brother Reggie, you have people. Okay, let's talk about the Jewish Holocaust, right? Their descendants are still they get money, Brother Reggie. Do you agree with that? Like, they get money. So we can say, well, they don't give them no money. They didn't go through the damn Holocaust. They weren't burnt. Like, I mean, they still get, it's called redress. It's called redress.
So in court, in the last reparations case, the Pellman Farmer, Deirdre Pellman Farmer case was our last reparations case in federal court for our whole people. And in that, it simply say that in order to have standing to sue for your ancestors, right, you have to have some connection to the estate. Then there's something called polling, right, and statute of limitations. What they're saying is the time period of the 40s, there were enough people still alive in the 40s, and so that's valid. What happened to us 250 years ago. Now, I don't agree with all of this. I have strategies against that. And I think that people, mathematicians and people that do statistical analysis could make the biggest argument, which is called disparate impact, not disparate treatment, but disparate impact. And that's all numbers. Did your policies affect us? How did it affect us statistically? That we can do, right? But if I want to sue for my great-great-granddaddy, no, that won't work. But the disparate impact of all of these policies is an argument in federal court that they would have to fight. Do you understand the differences?
Well, Brother Reggie, you do know that people sued, for reparations and got it. Like, it's court cases, is documented. People
I studied them. I'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I could bring you back on, and we could have a whole show on reparations. Yeah. But people have sued it and got it. So to say like we're not going to get it, we can't sue. People have sued, but it's all good.
Yeah, it's time. The thing is, it's the statute of limitations. So when you talk about these cases, they're within the last 70 years. They made a case in federal court that is the law of the land right now. That's the problem. We have a hurdle because they have written it as case law. So then I don't disagree with you that, but we.
And other groups of people have received reparations. They have.
Which group? Give me one.
Brother Reggie, I can't. I see Dr. Assad like this. Brother Reggie, Google it. I'm gonna say Google it.
No, I don't have to Google.
Google groups who have received reparations in the United States. Just Google. Do a quick Google. I'm not getting ready. I'm not gonna have this type of conversation.
No, I'm not saying that, Dr. Ma'at. I'm saying the time barring, right? If it's 200, 250 years, that's the problem. I'm not saying. So I'm looking at the time period, and I'm looking at.
The Doc, you stuck. Is that me? Is Doc stuck or is it me?
No, I'm stuck. No. I'm stuck.
No,
I'm stuck. I'm stuck listening to Brother Reggie.
No, I'm.
That was the Doc. You fun. You weren't even moving. You was like this.
I was stuck, man.
That was hilarious, show.
Wait. See, the thing is, Dr. Ma'at, what I am saying is that their arguments are crazy, right? But I'm telling you what their argument is in case law.
Okay. Well, I'll bring you back on. We have a conversation.
No, you can't just jump the line, bro. You wild.
No, yeah, you can't. You can't. I'm sorry. Sister Juju was on first. Sister Juju, you have the floor.
I was waiting. I wanted to get back to the conversation. So we've been talking about this, for a couple days. I've actually met Malik Asante. We brought him to do a lecture at Bethune-Cookman University. I've also studied under the guise of Dr. William Jones, who talked extensively on race theory and worldview and paradigm. I know y'all see where I'm getting at, right? And also had Dr. Naim Akbar at FSU. So those are my introductions to this discussion, right? I'm gonna give my criticisms because, understanding a bit of what we're talking about, my criticisms would be, I think that how you all approached this today may have been way over the heads or confusing for most people in the audience. I'm going to say that, Dr. Winkler. To me, it was giving some postgraduate introduction class, right? For those getting to the introduction, I felt where you were at with that. I'm going to say that.
Fair assessment.
Yeah. So I wish we can revisit this and make it a little bit more simpler. And I'm going to say how I attempted to explain it, right? We did pose this question. I'm not trying to be offensive, but for now, question was, show us the Afrocentric who hasn't crossed the pseudo lines. And I'm not talking about anybody on this panel. All right. That was one question we posed as pseudo killers to assess the problems that Afrocentrism, and I'm going to use both in Afrocentric, what that plays out today, right? I also wanted to step back and go back to the underpinnings of that. So to my belief, the underpinnings would be an African-centered worldview and paradigm. Am I correct or no, Dr. Winkler?
Oh, say that again. Pardon.
Underpinnings to Afrocentric thought or Afrocentrism? Wouldn't that be African worldview or paradigm?
I think if I'm following, I would agree. Yeah.
Right. So I started with what a worldview was, what a paradigm, what an African worldview and paradigm was, right? Because I feel like those that type of introduction, you will see that in academia play out with a little bit more critical thought to it. You understand what I'm saying? And so I did get this from ChatGPT. I was being very quick. I don't really have time to pull out a whole bunch of books and get to the specifics, but just to give a basic on what that means. So I want to help the audience. Just give me like 5 minutes, Dr. Maya, if you don't mind.
No, you good, you good.
So African worldview is what we're featuring. The foundation is rooted in authentic African traditions and philosophy. Its knowledge approach is to encourage critical thinking and research, right? Perspective on Africa recognizes Africa's complexity and diversity. These things all play and all are pretty much within, on the right side.
I have it in my slides too. I just didn't get to it.
I need you to tackle that though, because for the audience who may not be familiar with the subject matter, they'll be able to follow that, right? Because I am, I'm pretty much Afrocentric. I'm a Pan-Africanism, right? I stand out as a sore thumb in pseudo killers, right?
Yeah, we don't believe you though. Like we don't believe that. Yeah, we don't believe Doc. We don't believe none of y'all.
However, I'm very critical and I'm a skeptic, so I can see the problems with things in these philosophies today and how they're viewed outside of academia. You understand what I'm saying? So there are some things that are problematic with that. Agree. I'm gonna continue. Engagement with the world seeks self-determination while engaging with other cultures. So at times, Afro, because they are parallel together, Dr. Maya, I'm not gonna juxtapose them. I'm gonna use them in tandem, okay? Because most people don't know the difference. So in tandem, they would. So the centrism, the centricity as Eurocentricity almost plays out in reality as a type of supremacy, and that becomes a problem. So on one side, Europeans ruled everything, right? They're the creators of everything. And then this was supposed to be a solution to a problem, but it became supremic on the other end. Africans was over everything. We ruled everything. We started everything. You see those problems, right? And it wasn't supposed to be. What it was supposed to do is for us as Africans in the diaspora is center ourselves within this universe, within the world, right? Our history, our culture, Africans in the diaspora and African Americans, their contributions to the world. Key word is contributions, right? They're not the inventors of everything. They don't rule everything, but they contributed to what we know as history, science, and those things, right? So those would be the correct way that would have played out. I feel like in some ways, like I always say about Ivan Van Sertima, some of our elders got overzealous, overzealous. And that work, even though he probably recognized the error of his ways, became very damning, right? And it is in the middle of the BS and the pseudoisms that we have going on in the Black community. And we still have his students, right? That still, will still, hold on to that work. And what I mean by students, these students are some of our elders we speak of today. I'm not going to name any names. I don't want to be disrespectful. I do not like to be disrespectful to our elders because,
I took lectures with him, by the way.
Huh? What'd you say?
I actually took lectures with him in the Department of Black Studies.
Yeah,
I'm not a student like what you say.
Ivan Van Sertima. Yeah.
But I listen. I actually am physically sat in a room and had him lecture at least 3 times.
Yeah. I still go by him as Bob Van Sertima. I understand, the error.
That part.
Okay.
So I never said I agree with him. I just said that I was a real student.
So am I just an asshole? Because I think like you should call out everybody's names. That way we know.
I'm not here. We
I know. Is that really disrespectful though?
No,
I'm just wondering.
I just want to get back to what my point.
Let it finish.
I'm not gonna damn anyone to hell on this show.
That's damning people.
No, I'm being, because if I go there, bad
go ahead.
juju's gonna go there. I'm being good.
Oh,
juju.
well, that's the part. See, you
focus, developing African-centered solutions for modern issues. I'm finishing up on what African worldview, thus African paradigm. It was a solution to a problem, right? And for someone's psychology, we understand that having a good self-identity is important, right? I mean, especially most children psychologists, they understand this. So to finish, genuine African-centered paradigm is about cultural reclamation, critical thinking, and practical solutions for African and African descendant people worldwide. Okay. And so when I put this in, I juxtapose it to pseudo Afrocentrism, right? So I'm not going to be so damning to Afrocentrism, but pseudo Afrocentrism. And this is what we get when we talk about like polite.
Let her teach, let her cook, let her cook.
Like polite, you know, young Pharaoh, all those people you just played, that is pseudo Afrocentrism. It has no scholarly backing to it. They didn't even try, right? They never even set foot on the college. They don't even know how that process works. You get what I'm saying? They never wrote a thesis, a dissertation. They don't know. They don't even understand the underpinnings of what that word means, which I just gave you all. So you can go look at that and decide for yourself what that means, right? And so I do understand the importance of having an African worldview or paradigm. Me and Bobby had this conversation. Why not an African-American one? My response was because we have already been centered in a Eurocentric paradigm. You know, everything was whitewashed. So you would need that African paradigm to, you know, balance that out. You know, so I'll land there.
Can I say something to that? Two things. One, when you said pseudo Afrocentricity or whatever paradigm, when I listened to Dr. Mayat play Dave, he said pseudo Afro. So I'm saying, well, look, I can agree with him.
Did he say that? Then
yeah, he coupled the words, I believe. He meant it on purpose.
No. He said Afrocentrism. I could play it again. He said Afrocentrism, pseudoscience, and anti-intellectualism.
So those two words weren't together then.
So they weren't together.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So he lumped Afrocentrism and pseudoscience and anti-intellectualism all in with Afrocentrism. And the point I'm making, and Sister Juju can feel me, she gets it. Thank God somebody
get it.
She get it. What I'm saying, in our world, in our space, we'll lump them Afrocentric, Afrocentric, African-centered, Afrocentrism, Afrocentricity. We lump them all together. But outside of our world, right, when people say Afrocentrism, they're thinking about pseudoscience. They're thinking about anti-intellectualism. That's what they're thinking about.
And I get that.
That's what they're thinking about. And I get it too.
The second point, the second point I wanted to say is this. I can agree with you and Brother Ankh, but I think I might just look at it a little differently. I don't think African centricity is a pure like an African continental paradigm. I see it as I see it as an African paradigm created here in the United States, America.
Facts.
So I see it as an African American paradigm.
I can see that.
I would say it speaks to Africans in the diaspora. I will always say that word, and African Americans. So I would. Those words are in tandem, right? Because they mean two different things. You can be an African in the diaspora and not an African American. So I will use that. I will try to be very specific on what I mean. You know, so it's not just on the continent. It speaks to us outside of that, particularly because we don't have that continental African culture. We don't know what tribe we come from. We don't speak our, original language. You understand? So it's a solution to a problem. I understand that framework. I understand where it comes from, and I understand why. But
question. Oh, go ahead, Juju.
We're here now.
Cook, Sister Juju.
And being a skeptic.
You 10 minutes now, Juju. You said 5 minutes.
So
as a part, though,
I was answering questions, Bobby. So I was answering
as a part.
Bobby.
I'm thinking I'm agreeing with you too. As a part, though, of the diaspora, those of us in America as well.
Can I say something though? I'm
gonna be specific so people don't get it confused, Dr. Winkler. You understand?
Listen,
people like it confused.
I agree with both of y'all. But I'm going to restroom.
Go to bed. At this point, I don't care who get confused. We're in the space age. Right. The reason Christianity is so successful because it got away from the Stone Age religions and it modernized itself. The reason why people in our beloved Egypt transferred to Christianity so fast because it was easy to do. You didn't no longer have to buy, you ain't had to pay the priest. You no longer had to quote unquote buy sacrifices, spend all that money, and it was dubbed like the poor man religion because all you gotta say is Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. That killed everything, and it spread through the ancient Nile Valley culture at breakneck speed. Y'all can look it up. So what I'm saying is, if we don't modernize our culture, we'll get ran out the gym the same way the ancient Egyptian religion got ran out the gym. Christianity is the damn upgrade. They said Jesus Christ is the only sacrifice that was made. Y'all ain't got to do that no more. Easy work. That's why they winning. So why should we go back to continental African culture or continental? It doesn't make sense. We are African Americans. We are fit for this environment in 2025. We're absolutely ready to stand at the top. You know why? We got people like Juju, people like Miss Tiff, people like Dr. Oyamayat. We here. We here. Reggie too, Reggie. I don't want to leave you out there, Reggie. My point is very clear here. I love African American culture. So I'm an African American. I'm not a continental African. And I can say that and still build with the continental Africans from Kenya, from all over the diaspora. Yeah, we here. But recognize that we are an ethnic group. Recognize that. But they don't want to recognize that. They play it's like some kind of way we ain't that. I don't like that, Doc. I don't like that shade. I don't like that shade.
Yeah, but this is what I'm gonna say. And I throw it to Sister Juju because I already know where she is. No one, we don't think we're Nigerians. Like we don't think we're Igbo or no one's over here trying to be a Igbo or Mandinka or Bamali. We're not doing that. But there's nothing wrong, Ankh, with taking the best of our culture. Like you do realize that we do that when we came over here, that we brought our culture with us. Culture went with the people, right? And so it's nothing wrong with taking those elements, taking the best of our culture. And see, Dr. Karenga talks about this all the time, in his philosophical concept of kawaida. He talks about it all the time, taking the best of African culture.
Would you say come and eat them? Would you say that?
I said kawaida.
Don't do
come
that.
And eat them.
Yeah, I said kawaida. I said kawaida. Kawaida.
Cow, I'm eating no cow.
But look, he butchered words all the time, Sister Juju. So he ain't a shot for me. He always butchering the word. So anyway, kawaida.
I was just joking over the word.
I was messing with you. But kawaida is that concept of taking the best, right? Taking the best of our culture, the best elements in our culture, the best elements in our history, and using what we can in today's context. That's all. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think if someone does that, they're necessarily saying, I'm trying to be Igbo or I'm trying to be a Bamaliki or Mandinka. I think they're looking at our history, looking from whence we came, and they're saying, okay, our ancestors practiced this or they thought this, and I can use that right now, or I can't use it. That's fine too. But it's nothing wrong with taking the best of African culture and applying it in today's context. That's all I'm saying.
You know what, though? That point right there is what I've been saying the whole time. Then why they got to make it up then?
Who's making it up?
Listen, you're saying that we should take the best of Africa and bring it forward and leave the stuff alone that ain't workable. I agree. But you can't do that if you lie about African history. They are bringing forth a mythological lie. This is what I'm saying. They're not bringing forward. They like the early Europeans where they went in and made up.
Who's the they that you're talking about? Who's the they that you're talking about?
I'm saying the overall health of the community is unhealthy because people like you just showed them. You just showed them. You just showed Billy Carson. He's acting like we was flying through the air and built that's not African culture. You feel me? African culture wasn't in the Americas. That's not African culture. That's some nonsense. We built the ship. That's foolish. That's what I'm saying. Doc, that's what I'm saying. You the last of the Mohicans here. No, they're not doing that, Doc. No one talked about Onesimus before we came on the scene, Doc. Real, authentic African, West African history. Nobody talked about that, Doc. Remember that? They talked about all kind of nonsense, man. So what you're saying is, I agree, and I'm saying when I looked at it, it wasn't happening. They're making up African history. They're not. They say I'm practicing white man science. I said it's called anthropology. See, anthropology is supposed to allow the indigenous people to talk. Ancient Egypt is African American Egypt. We don't understand ancient Egypt, the traditional African systems that was going on. You got people like Jabari. He made a whole fake Egyptian spiritual system and said that's crazy to me. How can you? That doesn't make sense to me, Doc. See, I say names. See, y'all ain't saying, I'm not going to sit up here all day in Kumbaya and not say the names. They faking the African history. They're faking the spirituality. They don't. When I did the real sacrifice, they laughed at me. Oh, I can't believe that. That's real African history. Traditional spiritual system to sacrifice something on the damn altar. They laughed at me, but now they doing the Jesus Christ Christianity, African spirituality. I'm not doing that, Doc. I can't do it. So no, they don't bring forth the real authentic stuff. They bring forth African American Christianity and call it traditional African spirituality in history. That's my point.
Your point well made, Ankh.
I think some of them are hucksters, though. I think we have to be clear.
Call them the hucksters. I never heard that, bro.
Look, bro,
Yeah.
you didn't ran brother Reggie off. He went like this soon as you started going off. Brother Reggie went like this. Brother Reggie was like, I gotta go. You said you started going on his folks. He waved everybody and cut it and left. He didn't ran brother Reggie off the panel, brother Ankh.
I think some of them are hucksters, charlatans, and are intentionally doing this thing. I think it's important to kind of differentiate between them. Then there's those who believe these things. And then there's those who believe these things and those who inherit these things, as you articulated. Then I think there's those who are way out there, the pseudoscientists. Like, I will call their names. I will call every pseudo charlatan out. I'm talking about every last one of them. Like, the guys you putting on here, they are frauds. So I'm going to call them out. But then there's those of our elders and ancestors and scholars that are in these academic places and spaces, especially in the realm of psychology, that believe things in a more. It's not a huckst. It's not a money grab per se.
I get your point.
So
you might have gotten it wrong. I got you.
Yeah, and they believe in things. And human beings, if we study them, always believe in things. Correct. Right? So we're never going to get rid of that. So I'm not going to call out some of the elders that don't believe in quantitative analysis per se, because I understand why they don't believe in they don't want to do quantitative, because white people have weaponized it against us. So because it's been weaponized against us, we're doing anything but it, because with their pseudoscience. In fact, brother, one thing that you do very well, that I want to take it back to what you always say, is that no, it ain't even no Runoko Rashidi. It ain't even Billy Carson, because they got it from some white people before that, and they brought it to you.
Right.
So I'm not even
again.
It was white
again. Yes.
Yeah, and then it's because we want to be anti-establishment so much that we just, so it's part of the trauma. So I say it a little differently, and that's why I'm
like
a little.
You said that.
You see what I'm saying? So
yeah, you spent a lot of money to say that a little differently. You got that.
so you got that degree. You got that.
Ooh, I like that. Go ahead.
So I have to differentiate between them, and like I said, I know when I put my book out there. In fact, look, I have a ministry here, and I know when I'm in there, they mad at me all the time. Because they want to do all. Look, they saging. Okay, you can do that. You can, it's good.
Oh,
you can do all that. You can do the crystal, because there is some scientific evidence to say the placebo thing does some things for people's brains. But the thing is, don't think that's not what I do.
Right.
But my goal with people is to help them get more into their left side of their brain, because we too far into our right side of the brain. I say that religion to me is an art. You know, so it's like it's artistic. We love right. My assessment, my hypothesis is that because we were materially deficient in our process here in America, that we had to make the immaterial more important.
Say it again.
Because we were materially deficient, we had to make the immaterial more important to cope with our reality. Because we had to say, it's kind of like, you know, you live in the hood. You're like, look, we hood. You know, I've been in Baltimore. I don't know if you heard of Old and Canada, Dr. Mai did, but we used to tag up the dirtiest your neighborhood was, the better you were. So, so you have to create these concepts in your mind, these constructs in your mind to deal with this, with the reality that you face. So I think it is on a whole psychological level. Everything doesn't have to be real, but how is it serving you? But I do agree. We have to do a little bit more left brain work. We need to cross that corpus callosum. We're a little too far over there. You know, so we got to come on over here some, and we got to do some rationalization, some intellectualization. In fact, when you traumatize, so you stay down into your lower regions of your brain. You know, you're not going up in your cortical regions as much because I'm telling you, we have Dr. DeGruy is right. We're dealing with certain levels of trauma. Dr. What's our dear mama who passed away a few years, Doctor? May I?
Dr. Newton.
Dr. Newton, post-traumatic stress disorder. Dr. Joy DeGruy. Dr. Naim Akbar, even Dr. Amos Wilson, even all of them have different words for the same phenomenon, and the trauma is real. And this trauma word has been big in our community before it's got you, but so before the white people start talking about it. Now they're making lots of money off it, but nonetheless, I'm gonna stop there.
Hey, you got Salimbe in the bottom. I don't think you lift them up, Doc. Where you at? You see somebody in the bottom?
Yes, I see him.
Okay, all right. Who next? Who was next, Doc?
I think it was Miss Tiffany, and then did so.
Miss Tiff, what's up?
Hey.
Welcome to the show.
Peace, Queen.
Peace. I had time to write my question up, you know. I got it good. Well, I'm curious as to who all on the panel considers himself Afrocentric, or maybe the better question is who doesn't necessarily consider themselves Afrocentric.
Oh, I don't. I consider myself African American centric. We read all the books. Strengths, and we've weighed the strengths and weaknesses of all of them, and we take the best parts of them, and thus you get the African American.
Okay. But that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I see what
Sister
Juju
Juju, I can't do it.
I got you, Juju.
Sister Juju, I can't do it.
Anybody else?
I can't do it. We just said the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I know, but I like the way I said it. Shoot, I said it where you can get it, where you clear. That's all.
It is used to that. Miss Tiffany, you already know where I lie. So
I think she know where I'm at.
So that's why I said who doesn't, because I think it's probably more people on the panel who identify with the term for themselves as opposed as not. So Ankh said he did it. Anybody else who doesn't?
He still is technically. He's still on the African American worldview and paradigm, which will include.
Yeah, I'm African American.
Thank you. Speak, Juju.
That leads into my next part of my
speak, Sister Juju. Exactly.
It's one of my frameworks. I would say that it's one of the ways that one of the approaches that I use, right?
Okay.
Some of us struggle with labels.
Yeah.
So just to not get locked in anything, I say this is one of the frameworks I use, not the only, but it's one of them.
Okay. So my thing is I don't necessarily identify with the label either in that way. I mean, I could see how it could be an important thing if a person wants to kind of carry that label, and that I guess that brings me to my next question. So what does it mean in a nutshell? I know you guys have talked about it, but just real simple.
And what kind of shell?
Nutshell. To view the world.
Don't do that.
View the world.
Mute him, Dr. Maya.
I know. I'm about to mute him out because he's being bad. He's being really bad right now.
View the world in an Afrocentric perspective. Oh, man. And how is that different from? And how is that perspective different from an African American or Black American perspective?
Oh, that's a good one right there. I'm gonna let y'all wrestle with that. That's a good one.
I don't. Let me say this.
How are you?
I call it. I'm sorry. Pardon.
Go ahead, doctor.
Kind of like Dr. Kobe Cambone. I always put African and I put a / black, right? So to me, it's not to get locked in the paradigm, right? I mean a very specific thing when I'm utilizing it. So again, I use black because I understand some of us will gravitate towards black and some of us don't think we're African. So I use both, and not just interchangeable, but at the same time, Africa / black. So there's no difference, but I will say that in black identity, right, as we spoke about earlier, Sister Juju said we had a graduate level course, because it had to be a graduate level because Brother Reggie was coming for me. Yeah. But the thing is, black identity, you realize that we are, I hate when people say it, but we are not a monolith. Right. So black identity is different. So you have those who identify as black, and or maybe not, but we can identify them as assimilationists. That's one identity. You have another identity, you can call them miseducated. You have another one, self-hatred. You have another one that could be called anti-white sentiment, those who just black and hate everything white and anything white. And these are the ones we talked about, Brother Ankh. Those who score very high in anti-white sentiment, you can measure the results, and they have all types of poor health outcomes. They have all types of anxiety. They have all types of illness. Wow. So that's another way to identify black. Then another way is Afrocentric. And there's identities that's not even measured because it's too many to even measure because humans are very complex. It's not that type of argument. But humans are very complex. But then you have multiculturalists. So people who are multiculturalists also can identify black, but they also, in some degree, embrace other ethnic groups, but also move ahead with their blackness. So, so what I'm saying is, I don't see a difference, but I do see it depends on a person's values, their ideals, how they direct their energy, what is important to them, how they believe the world should look, all that type of thing. So, yeah.
Right. So the framework is not very static. It's dynamic, and there's not one way that the framework manifests itself.
It's not supposed to. Right.
Well, that's fine. So now I would like to, so the disadvantages of being centric in that way, because if we have conversations with people who would consider themselves Eurocentric or maybe any other culture centric, how do we feel about that?
I don't know if I agree with the last the previous thing before I get there.
About it being dynamic?
Depending on what framework we're speaking about. If we're talking about African Senate by you specifically, well, that can be a very specific framework, right? Okay. But when I'm speaking about how black people show up, I'm saying black people and black centered. I see what you're saying, and I see where the confusion is and how I put it out there. Right. So the thing is, black people in general show up various different ways, and one of those different ways they show up is African centered. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but everybody's African centered is not going to be the same.
Nobody's anything. Like
that. Everybody's Pan-Africanism isn't the same.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody's Christianity ain't the same.
Just like Dr. Matt was saying, not everybody's FBA. But I think we can measure it.
I'm not saying there's a problem with it, but I'm saying that it could change. It could change from country to different places where
it does. Let's just do that.
She's right.
African descendant people are. It could look different if African descendant people in different parts of the world even gravitate to the framework. It would look totally different than what we're calling it over here or whatnot. In certain aspects, I would think. So what are the disadvantages of being centric?
I could say it.
Okay.
You don't critique. You feel like you start to feel ashamed if you say, well, you got that scholarship wrong. They start throwing tomatoes at you if you say something. So it's not, it has no resistance. I mean, it's not resistant to change. It's a built-in mechanism that says we're right and that's it, right? That's the problem with it for me. That's the problem for me. Let me finish. Can I go ahead?
No, I wanted to hear what you said. I was like, kind of like, and I'm white and I say so. You kind of said that. It's just in the opposite. But go ahead.
But in academia is different, though. See, that's why.
No, I want to finish. Go ahead, Ankh.
Yeah, but we need the academics then.
We do.
Then everybody stop playing. That's the point. Then y'all playing with me then, because I should be reading, I should be on here, and they scared to come on.
No, you
see, I can get a white person.
I'm
make my point. I can get a white person.
We right here.
Nah, man, y'all two don't count. Y'all the last more.
I'm here too.
But I also want to say though, brother, that we have to understand one thing that Dr. Amos Wilson says. He said, see, it's about our taste buds, right? It's like we have more taste for a polite. The scholars are there. Nobody's going to ASCAC. Nobody's going to conferences. Nobody's listening to long videos anymore. I'm talking about the people that Ankh is talking about. They would rather go to they are going to conferences. It's just a different conference. What? You know, or they just don't want to listen. They're not going to academia. It's boring to them. They want something exciting. Your brother, you won't call out names. I think he created the part of, he's a part of the reason to change the palette.
Who?
Brother Sinetta. All that action. Now people can't come down and read no more.
So
you need so much action. It's stimulation, you know, it's all that. You know, people don't want to read a book no more. Let's keep it a buck. Ain't nobody, people ain't reading.
Yeah, that's not, no, that's a technology change.
Well, Sinetta utilized it and added to it. Yes, he did it.
So is this an example of how this type of centrism can be a disadvantage?
She's good.
Yeah, she is good. She
good. She got game.
Call her Black Widow. We don't call her Black Widow for no reason.
What was the question about this?
A lot of those people will tell you they're very Afrocentric. That's why I don't personally like the labels, because you tend to get lumped in with certain things that, you know. I mean, every to each his own. That's just my own personal thing. But
I just think I'm like to the point where African Americans contain all of that, man. We got scholars, man, African American scholars. What's wrong with that? That will tell you what Egypt is in the Nile Valley is. Well, I get it though.
Now I want to show you something, because I think I butchered it. So Dr. Molefe Asante, in his article, it was published in the Los Angeles Centennial. All right. And so I want to define what he's talking about here. He said kawaida, right? It's a Swahili word that means for us tradition and reason. So this not, you know, when people, the African stuff. No, it's tradition and it's reason. Okay. It says a rational, derived, morally sensitive, in a culturally rooted way of understanding and engaging self, society, and the world. He said, I define kawaida philosophy as an ongoing synthesis of the best of African thought and practice and constant exchange with the world. Come on, Ankh. That's what you talk about. So you're not in opposition to him who is African-centered. What you're saying is
that's what he said it means. What does the word mean?
So he said that he defines it, this philosophy, as an ongoing synthesis of the best of African thought and practice. To be African-centered doesn't mean you just trying to be, remember earlier I was saying, you're trying to be Igbo, you're trying to be, you know, Mandinka. No. It's look at this. It's an ongoing synthesis of the best of African thought and practice. He said in constant exchange with the world. So this is constantly happening. You're constantly fine-tuning what you think is the best of African thought and practice. Are you with me?
Yeah.
But you said that you said that earlier, and I'm just telling you.
I just made it plain and simple.
Exactly. This is exactly what you've been talking about. And he wrote about it. It's a whole philosophy out there that describes what you just said. And that's why I wanted to show it to you. Go ahead, Doc.
And Dr. Maya, another thing, and I think Sister Juju said it earlier. By the way, Sister Juju, I'm a fan of yours, so I'm a fan of Sister Juju. Right?
Yes, Juju type. Juju type.
Although she ain't get those brothers no. Look, she she don't get those brothers no breaks. Those brothers be
breaks.
Dr. Asa G. Hilliard to kind of veggie back, you know, that type of thing, you know, where we African centered.
There we go. What's wrong with pork?
No, but I'm messing around. But look, Dr. Mayat said this. She said she read what Dr. Pardon me, I'm tired of
Karanga
Karanga said, And I want to say a pivotal video with Dr. Naim Akbar and our ancestor, Dr. Asa G. Hilliard, who I think you would struggle to see as like pseudo. They have their ideas and things that you can challenge, but
that's fine.
Yeah, but the reality is these two people said we could have had it all wrong, and it's for the next generation to come and correct it. So that is a very scientific way of looking at things, and they were doing that thing in a time where they had to do it. It never said that they had it all correct.
Oh, I agree with you on that.
I take that.
Tiff, you had something you want to finish, and then we can move on.
I guess I'll just finish up with the framework, as I like frameworks. With the quote you read, talked about using the best of African thought. So I like processes, and I want to see it to understand exactly what those thoughts are. Is that written down somewhere? Are those things and how
How
does it? Mm-hmm.
No, go. You saying his philosophy is in his
book.
or
just the framework of the Afrocentrism. Is it like a documented framework where there's just something I could read? And I'm curious about that, because when you say the best of African thought, where is it being sourced from? Like that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, he has 2 books on it, on Kawaida. So you can grab two of his books on that, if you so choose. I also know that, Dr. Saar, is it Asa Hilliard?
Yes.
Saber. Am I thinking about Saber?
Saber, Asa G. Hilliard.
Oh, that's Asa G. Hilliard.
The book.
Yes, that's Saber. That's Asa G. Hilliard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Jacob Carruthers' Intellectual Warfare. You got Dr. Karenga, Introduction to Black Studies. So it's several books that talk about it.
Amos Wilson.
Well,
Dr. Amos Wilson. Yeah, Dr. Amos Wilson's work. So a lot of them talk about
Dr.
it.
Linda James Myers.
Framework. What I mean by framework, you know how in the collegiate space, how you may, I don't know if it's more like in psychology, maybe. You will have different frameworks, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same standard across the board.
Oh man,
specific frameworks. So when
they exist, I get what you're saying. You're saying without having to look at an entire book, right?
Right.
Right. Like, where's the framework?
So yeah, there's frameworks, and like you're mentioning psychology, right? So there's in African-centered psychology, there's various frameworks, right? You have Linda James Myers, who has a framework. You have something called Into Psychotherapy. You have and we have to be honest. It needs to be fleshed out, and it's still a process that needs to evolve, because a lot of us do not publish, and that's one of the reasons why I do. That's one of the reasons why I maintain to keep it alive, because lots of the stuff was done too long ago. And those, if you don't continue to write and continue to build on frameworks, like I'm creating a framework right now to kind of further it along. There's some pseudo frameworks. What's that MD brother name? He's an MD. I can't, when I get to the Egypt section, it just throws me all off. It's just like Egypt and all that. And I'm not saying that Egypt wasn't African, but they get too out there. It's you don't need to know anything. You just need to whatever. But what I'm saying, they are frameworks. And you could send me an email, and I could send you some if you really want to see some of these frameworks. There's those, and then you and me and everybody can flesh these out. One thing I just can't throw it away, because there's been too much work done. 1, 2, pop culture messes everything up. Everybody's a narcissist. Everybody's on the spectrum now. Everybody's everything now. So what I'm saying is, once it gets to pop culture, it becomes pseudo. So it's that's just how academia flows. It's just a universal thing. Everybody knows everything. And then they take it and they overgeneralize it and make it into their own thing. They got all types of things that if you want to use the medical book, the DSM, then you will say that most of the stuff that people are talking about is not in that book. But that book, again, the other part is that book is limited like any other science.
Man, interesting. Hey, make sure y'all like and subscribe. Okay, Dr. Oyatmeya's channel. Like and subscribe to Community Skeptics. Keep that algorithm going, man. If y'all want these intelligent conversations, man, y'all just gotta keep supporting. We have an excellent discourse. Should Afrocentricity be conflated with pseudoscience and anti-intellectualism? Very interesting.
Afrocentrism. I changed it. Remember, I changed it. Afrocentrism.
It
don't matter to me because I say I use them interchangeably, but I did change it to Afrocentrism.
Oh, it ain't changed. All right, let me change it right here on my screen. Then right here, got you.
All right. Who was the next person? I think it was Ditso.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. Can I ask the brother's name with a hat who's writing the book? I did not catch your name. Huh?
Brother Asar.
Asar, thank you. Okay. Anybody has a stopwatch?
Wow.
4 minutes.
No, hell
3 minutes
no.
and 30 seconds.
I ain't got no. Nah, bro, you tripping. I ain't got.
Okay. All I'm gonna say is as follows.
That's mean.
I'm gonna make it real fast. I wanted the time watch to make it concise, but anyhow.
Yeah, I'm concise you at one. I'm concise you at a minute and a half. Go ahead. I got the stopwatch.
Well, a minute and a half is a bit too low, but
go ahead and talk.
Very simple.
I'm not
One.
The
concept of Pan-Africanism actually originate from Pan-Americanism, particularly from the 1889-1890, the first actual meeting after the processes of independence here in the Western Hemisphere. Fact of the matter is that in a historical sense, the notion of, oh, we are American, oh, we are African, oh, etc., is something that is modernly applied in the last 200 to 250 years, especially with the birth of modern-day nations based on constitutional republics. Now, in this sense, very simple and very straightforward. Those of us here, born in the North, Central, South, and Caribbean America, aka Americas, with African descendancy of slavery, we're not African. What we are is the descendancy of that slavery.
The what? What's the word you said? The what?
The descendancy of that slavery that happened here. Factual. So understanding that, and then understanding what the notions of Pan-Americanism and Pan-Africanism.
Pan what?
Pan-Americanism.
That ain't got nothing to do with what we talking about. You just eased something in. Pan-Americanism. That's another whole show, man. But
no. I'm not
like that.
Dwelling into that. What I was saying is that the origins of both, the idea of Pan-Africanism in a chronological historical sense comes after the notions of Pan-Americanism.
What was first?
If look at the all the sources I placed in there.
Listen,
man. I know.
I know you're trying to put. Hey, see, see, Doc. He pushing his thing. See, that's his thing. Go ahead,
hold on.
Go ahead, bro.
The whole point being here is that I agree with the necessity, and it's something that in my area of America, it has also been problematic to quantify the identity and the issues within that identity, as the brother was saying, because there's this notion that quantification and qualification has been used as a weapon to erase ethnicity, and it's not untrue that in certain grades it has been used as that, and the need of using those same weapons to understand the transformation of identity.
Hold on. So what's race and ethnicity? What you saying? What tool is being used to erase ethnicity?
The tools of, in the whole line of this conversation, the quantification versus qualification.
Okay.
Through a biopsychosocial methodology. That's what I would normally see what the brother is doing, based on the historical context and the historical trauma that has carried on systematically in that sense. So, yeah, the quantification and qualification of people through the pseudoscientific means aka race, for example, have been utilized in grades to erase ethnicity.
Ethnicity. So you saying when you start putting people in categories of race,
but
is a race in their culture, and okay, go ahead.
I agree with Dr. Vass in the sense that we need to reuse those tools to redefine and go back to the essence of this whole point of conversation, which is a methodological work to understand empirical, epistemological, and even ontological elements here in the Western Hemisphere, as well as in Africa, etc. But at the same time, I do consider that those of us in America, we have to work our realities, and the Africans work their own. Understanding that, making that distinction enables then a more profound work, a more profound analysis of each reality. So that's why I put all those sources, because the point being here is we are in modern days, this area that we call America, we're responsible to a certain degree of that origin of Pan-Africanism, Pan-americanism, Pan-Europeanism, etc. The process of independence, especially in the last 250 years, have risen to that point. And Africa is not an exception, becoming independent from colonies, etc. But centrism without a material historical reality and analysis.
You got ball. You had 5 minutes, Mark. Run it down. Go ahead.
Leads to, and with this, I'm cutting it short. Leads to centrism without that element of history, leads to supremacy, and supremacy then leads to erasure of ethnicity.
So hold on for a minute, bro. I listened to you, so I'm kind of getting it. That was kind of tight, yo. Y'all gonna have to rewind that and do it slow. It was kind of, I get what you're saying. Can I kind of summarize it? Is you basically saying that separating yourself? No, you saying that there needs to be ethnic understanding, and don't mesh them all together, right? Is that what you basically saying? Have some understanding of your ethnicity. Is that what you basically saying?
Well, in layman terms, yes, we need to continuously do a separate, a clear.
Yeah. You saying, because if you try to mesh it all together, you start to get supremacy, because there are going to be groups that don't want to join that, and all of a sudden you got a group over here that's like Christianity. Christianity has developed a supremacy idea towards everybody else's religion and culture, right? Because you get it, because they say you join this or else. Because we have the God, we have your salvation, right? Forgetting about everybody else's thing, right? Whereas though if everybody else was allowed to have their own thing, right, then you wouldn't get a supremacist attitude and sail in the world and sail the world and do the Papa's bulls, which you first taught about, Di. You the first one to ask him of that, and said, "Our God say, if you don't find a Christian way over here, then you can enslave them and bring it to Christ."
And may I ask you something? What year?
No, your time. You're done. Your time is done. I ain't gonna lie. I give you 5 minutes.
Wait a minute. So I think you're speaking from a perspective as you're an indigenous person with African admixture. Yes or no?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. So I think he was drawing the line between that. I think this conversation is more for people who identify as African descendants. That would be different. And it's not grouping everybody in one circle. The framework is supposed to work where you are. So if I'm an African in diaspora in South America, it would still work, like the Garifuna people. You know, some of them have a more extremity to their African side than their indigenous side, right? Because the culture places them that way, but they're African indigenous. Whereas someone who has African admixture, you might identify a little more with another culture than African culture. For me, I'm an African American. So yes, I'm here in American, but as being a Gullah Geechee descendant, it's intrinsically West African. I would not be able to deny that. I can't separate myself from the ethnicity. Does that make sense?
Completely.
Yeah, in that sense, in our condition, we can in my reality, we combine both. But for us, the African descendancy is of the cultures that originated there, from religious, for example, Candomblé in Brazil, to the Creole in Limon, or Jamaican forms. So for us, for that analysis, that's why we make that distinction, because there are elements that came into and continue the line of Africanness,
right,
versus the admixing of either African with white, African with indigenous, African with others in that sense. But still, the notion of Africanness in Western Hemisphere is highly tied to the colonial slavery process, and then the independence process, and the settling of independent nations, and what those cultures are from.
We got you. I can't see who that person is down there at the bottom left hand. Who is that, Doc? I see Chilembe in there.
Yeah, Chilembe, and Chilembe's next, and then it's Carl. Somebody named Carl. But Chilembe, you have the floor, brother.
Hey, peace, everyone. How everybody doing?
Peace to you.
Peace.
Peace, Pseudo Killer Official. What's good, man? How you doing?
Everything good. So there's it's a very interesting conversation. I'll say that. I think Dr. Assar touched on one of my biggest critiques of Afrocentricity, and that is its reluctance to use the scientific method fully. Like their pushback against imperialism, right? And taking actual data and using it to format their framework. So I want him to touch a little bit more on that. I hear him keep saying he's doing a book and he's about to talk about some of those issues. I think that's a very, very big gap in their framework. I think that's a very serious issue.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think it's against what we call African thought. Even if we want to go with the religious or spiritual ideas of Ma'at, like we talk about balance, right? We talk about truth, justice, balance, order, reciprocity. We talk about balance, but you only want to use one type of research. Like you're not using all of research. You want to use quantitative, you want to use qualitative lived experiences, but you don't look at the aggregate. You don't want to look at the whole, because there is weaknesses in whole, right? There is weaknesses that you don't get to see why people are doing things like empirically or quantitatively. It tells you what's happening, but it doesn't tell you the why. So why not do more? Why not argue or like advocate for mixed methodology then? Versus quantitative or qualitative. Both are important. And again, as I said earlier, I really think it does have to do a lot with how we've been abused by the system. Just like we know everybody talks about the Tuskegee experiment, and all these things are real. I mean, I used to be very insensitive about it to some degree. Like, all right, let's get over it, but the reality is trauma is real. And so I had to be a little bit more sensitive because people will shut down because the trauma is still in their body. It's still very real. It's still very visceral for them. So the reality is, that's just a part of it. The other part is that some people go as far as saying, it's a touchy ground when you're doing psychotherapy and it's about and then there's no disorder almost. I struggle with that. I understand how the DSM-5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1, if there was such a one, has been weaponized against Black people. I understand how psychosis and all these things have been weaponized against Black people, and Black people have been locked up, put away in insane asylums, and all these type of things, which can be historically, you can look at it historically. But the reality is, just because a thing happened doesn't mean that again, why throw out the baby with the wash water, right? And that, to me, that becomes more of a strength for the system that you want to fight, because now everything's about the ethereal, and I say not about the material. We got to do the ethereal and the material. So again, that is my greatest critique of all of, I mean, not even just Afrocentric thought, just general thought in most communities. If you go around, you start talking to what we call lay people. Most lay people just don't believe in none of that stuff. They think you're educated fools. So it's not even a black thing, brother Ankh. It's a thing.
You know, whenever we have, you know, when our Europeans got a cold, we got the coronavirus.
Yes, I agree with that.
So yeah, so
it's
I think a little bit different.
Not in Europe.
Yeah, I think
America.
I'm sorry.
You said what? Would you say?
So you mean white America?
No, Europeans.
We're not in
Europe.
That.
I know we don't have.
All right, I'm not gonna take y'all down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, because we talking about colonialism was Europeans.
Yeah, but usually when we say when white folks got the cold, black folks got the flu. I'm just saying that's
what did I say though? What did I say?
The Europeans.
I was talking about the Europeans though.
Okay, no problem.
That's what I was talking about. I want to clump. I want to get you the base of everything. Everybody.
Y'all, we got in one day.
I want you to take right. I was talking about them. I want to talk about the ones in America.
One thing I'm gonna ask I just have an ask from the community of skeptics. The pseudo killers. Y'all like, oh God. I was trying. Well, one thing I'm trying to figure out. Homeboy asked, my name is. I didn't really get to what he was saying. You know, I don't know if he wanted to say something about, but okay. One thing, you guys have really studied in many things. I do want y'all to take that in consideration.
Okay.
And what I mean by that, like scholars aren't going like a scholar's going to get something wrong. I'm not saying our dear brother, I think he's questionable, just to be honest with you. Out Dr. The one y'all put up earlier. I'm not going to say the name. But I think he's questionable.
What are you talking about?
I'm not trying.
I think he's talking about Brother Reggie. I think he's trying.
No, not Brother Reggie. I'm talking about our dear elder when he would Boyce Watkins. I think all that's a little questionable. Let me just say that. Yeah, I'm just going to say that. So I think again, I have to put them in a different category. I'm that's just an assumption of mine. You know. So why am I bringing that up?
And why you got to hide the name? You don't want nobody else to get got. You know, you know what's deep? I ain't gonna cut you too hard. I'm not gonna. I'd stay right there on your point. Put a pin. I want to let you know that humans in general have a problem always keeping secrets, right? And I'm saying, I gave that analogy that when another group have a cold, we got the coronavirus, right? Meaning the shit is more, what's the word? Exacerbated? Am I saying, I say that, Juju?
Exacerbated,
right? It's more because we're marginalized, we have less tools to fight against it. So pseudoscience, although there's more white people in America, but the pseudoscience doesn't affect them as much as the pseudoscience affects us. How do we know this? The example is all the major platforms that we have, right, have pseudoscience on it. And they don't put people like you and Doc that can represent the thing right. They ain't gonna put me on because I'm gonna tell it like it is all the way. No cut cards. I don't want to talk about it, right? But in our community, the biggest platforms we have, the Breakfast Club, all the big YouTube channels, you know what I'm saying? All that's why Professor Dave can actually think that, quote unquote, my man from hip hop, you know what I'm saying, the flat earther guy, you know what I'm saying, is the standard. It's the standard of pseudo. It's craziness. Is
my differentiation, though, brother.
But I just want to make that. I'm just saying that.
That's what you're saying, Bobby.
Yeah, it's
emotionally affected because our numbers.
Yeah, right. So what I'm saying is, stop keeping a secret. Say they damn names, man.
My differentiation
I'm just saying, say their names and then say, well, like I'll say James Smalls, right? That's my man, but he teach that the Native Americans of Africa are black people. He's just wrong, and that's my main man.
I can say that. That's different.
Say that.
That's
right.
very.
That's how you got to.
I'm gonna see him in a few weeks, Bobby.
Tell him I said.
That's
what's up.
That's very easy.
I
can say that. I think Dr. Smalls personally got a lot of things. I think he switches up, like depending on what audience he has. But what I'm saying is that's easier because that's a real thing. Now, what I'm saying that I think Claude Anderson goes beyond that.
Well, you got to say it. Say Claude go beyond that. That way, another African American ain't going through it.
I'm questioning whether it's legit, whether it's authentic. That's what I'm saying. So that's why I don't have all the evidence, but what I'm saying, that's just a feeling I have. Boyce Watkins, I can clearly say I believe Boyce Watkins is a huckster, a salesman. You see what I'm saying? So that's different. I'm
an anti-vaxxer. See, I'll say, this man with all that platform he had, he was saying go take some herbs and spices.
So there's difference. I put them in different categories, right?
Yeah, I get it.
So, but what I want to get back to what I want to say to y'all. Y'all have a lot of knowledge. It may not always. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I'm saying that y'all might be stronger in different areas. Like some of y'all go real deep in different areas, but then y'all have this surface knowledge that goes like crazy because y'all just do this every day. So when you hear another scholar comes on, or somebody else, like let's say Claude Anderson, he gets one thing wrong because that's not his. Sometimes you have to cross over the fields a little bit. Some of it is intentional, and some of it is just because that's not your field, but you kind of got to bring it in, and you might not be as intricate in it. Like, for example, I already know that most people ain't gonna be as intricate as me when it comes to psychology and counseling and all those type of things, right? I just know it.
Yeah, you brought some serious sources.
So and it can go deeper. So now when you start talking about Homo sapiens and Darwin and all that, I'm quiet. Yep. Like, look, I get it on a surface level. I learned that from y'all.
Yeah,
I get that. Look, I learned that from y'all. That's why I listen to you all, so that I can take that and ingest it with what I have to do my work. You know what I'm saying? Correct. So some of us need a little what is it called, Dr. Mayat? Give some of us a little grace, because some of us go very deep into specific areas, and we might get something wrong, but that doesn't mean that everything we're saying is wrong.
No, is your major psychology?
Actually, properly counseling, clinical mental health counseling, counselor education.
I did a minor on psychology, matters of addiction mainly, but hold
on, no. We had to you tried. That's a segue move. I seen you. You gonna block your move? No, you segueing. You tried to get in. Go ahead, Chilembe. You jumping out of turn.
For a future conversation with Dr. Bass, I would just like to ask,
man, but you over talking though. But you over talking right now, bro. You
drop your emails in the back.
Yeah, come on, man, with that, man. Come on, bro.
Yeah, I'd love to send you an email and just ask about.
Okay, that's fine. You can't be rude to do it, though. You can't be rude to do it.
And let me give you my dissertation. My dissertation makes it, when you're in like that level, it lets you know a little different. It lets you know something as well. So my dissertation was measuring the relationship of race-based trauma. It's supposed to have been black identity, but somehow I got racial identity on there. Racial identity, and spirituality. So, yeah, say it again. Yeah, but it kind of like everybody versus I wanted to be more clear, but I'm going to do an article to make it more clear. So that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So we talked about the lack of empirical evidence and how at times they like to avoid the actual methodological naturalism, the scientific method. You did touch on the epistemology, how we know what we know, and that framework. I believe you were saying that the framework is based in the epistemology on how we know what we know, viewing it from that. At least I hope you were saying that, and not based solely on methodological naturalism. My other issue I have with it is that it's just so compounded with mythology. Right?
Yeah, I don't like that. I'm with you on that, Chilembe. I don't like that part.
Yeah, it's just filled with just mythology, like the dialogue and conversation surrounding it is just filled with it, stuff that just isn't historically accurate, right? And just not being historically accurate, it kind of leads to a place in which it's easier for you to accept other pseudo ideologies.
Yeah, man.
You see what I'm saying? Because let's take something as simple as blacks being in America prior to the transatlantic slave trade. that was a thing that was proposed very, very long ago. Like it's not new in our community, but we now have sufficient evidence to just say that isn't true. And I don't see how that framework is able to remove the mythology parts that's in it and continue on. So you can give me clarification on that. I'm not totally against it. I'm just very concerned that a lot of the pseudos that we see running around here are so intimately connected to that framework.
Okay, if I can, I don't think most of these pseudos
resistant to change. It's resistant to change. The model is actually resistant to change.
And the model ain't no resistance to change.
No,
that don't even make you update models. I'm not listening to you.
Yeah,
it's not the model resistant to change.
No, I'm saying. So even Reggie came with the old book.
Yeah, I think that's people. That's not the model itself. It's how people.
Thank you.
Yeah, but the model itself ain't bubbling. Y'all got to be bubbling. It ain't bubbling. Nobody even cares about that model. Am I wrong? Am I just? I know. Sometimes I get straight to it, but it's not the thing that you could. It's not your go-to.
It is for. It is, but the problem is what I'm saying is what,
it is. I told you
you did.
I told you they're using it. You're just not in those spaces where it's being utilized.
Yeah.
But you just can't say because
you're not gonna beat me up with that.
No, I ain't gonna beat you up. I ain't gonna beat you up. All I'm saying is because you don't have utility for it doesn't mean that it's not being used.
Yeah, like Dr. Maya is using African Senate as far as her STEM program, like this model, right?
Am.
So what I'm saying is,
my model is getting ready to be published by Purdue University.
Of course. Nice. No, I'm saying, but you're the last Mohican.
It is,
but it's not the last. It's the next. It's the next generation of bringing this and evolving it along.
I know, and so then why everybody throw tomatoes at us then?
Well, let me
hold on. If she the next level, if we represent the next level, why are they throwing carrots and tomatoes at us then?
That's part of the process.
Oh wow,
it's part of the process.
I don't respect that. But the elders should love. They should love what we do. They throw tomatoes at it. I swear they do,
cognitive dissonance. It's a psychological thing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's a real thing. We have to use all the sciences. That's what I'm really trying to say. We have to use psychology as well. Don't put that one away because it'll save us a lot of emotional distress. Believe me, my trainer helped me understand that there's a reason why people are doing this, and it does have a lot to do with our trauma. You have to escape this reality when you've been hurt as bad as we've been hurt. So in order to get us back to where we are, there's different approaches to getting us where we are. You have an approach, and there's other approaches.
Absolutely.
Sure.
The brother had a question though, and I was trying to.
And another thing, Sister Juju and Doc, I want to touch on. When people hear African-centered, they think like we mean exclusion. Right. African-centeredness is not excluding everybody. Like somebody in the chat said, "Oh, white people can't go to your class." I teach all kinds of children. I got white people in my class. I have Hispanic people in my class. Some people from Venezuela are in my class. In my African-centered STEM program, one of our schools is predominantly Hispanic. So just because we say, "Oh, it's African-centered," don't mean we're excluding everybody.
It's
What does it mean if you say Europeans? Supposed
that's what they do. That's what they do.
That's that question that Ms. Tiff brought up though. How does it sound? You know what my metric always is? What does it sound like? You hear, hey Juju, this is what I'm saying. When I say something, my thing is, what does it sound like if so if I say Black African power, right? And the person say white power, right? And I'm saying, what am I hearing? How does that actually sound? You feel me? You have to, even though we went through everything we went through, you got to be cognizant of that. You have to be. And I'm just saying, how does it sound? You saying no. I get your point.
No, I live in Florida. We can't even teach African American history no more. We're in a Eurocentric reality. So what you mean? What does it sound like?
Oh, you can't teach African American history no more? Is that real?
You know what I'm talking about? Critical race theory. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't know we couldn't teach African American history.
You know what I'm talking about? You don't know that? Okay, whatever.
Nah, I thought we supposed to be teaching our babies. We should set up our own programs.
Listen, so that means the school system is set as a Eurocentric under Eurocentric premise. Then if we can't
Absolutely.
teach that, that's what that means. So
What?
when I
You don't
explained
got
it
time. You get to
earlier,
college, you get it though, Jew. I ain't trying to
I'm
argue with
No,
you.
you don't.
to expound
Yes,
on
you
what
do.
I
You
said
can take-
earlier.
You don't.
It
Not
was
really.
never meant to be
You
a
said not. What's
supremacy.
not really?
Say it, Juju. Okay, you
It was
talking
never
about
meant to
Sister
be a supremacy. It was meant
It's never.
to add, to include Africans and Africans in the diaspora into the mix of world history, contributions to science. It was supposed to be an addition. The words in those definitions say contribute, says nothing like we did everything. It says contribute, meaning it's to add to, you know, what's already
We talking about
established.
now, though, Juju. We talking about the reality of where we at now. That's what we.
No, but no, she's right. And even in, like she said, with Afrocentrism, even in my model, incorporation of African philosophy. I didn't just say make it all African philosophy. I use words like incorporation of African philosophy, STEM curriculum integrating historical and modern contributions of Black people, African people. That's what integration, incorporation, inclusive. That's what we're saying. We're not saying that African centerism is just centered around nothing but Africa. Nothing. We're not saying that. That's not African centeredness. That's not even the way it's defined.
It's not.
No. We talk. No. There's a need there for proposing African-centered education for STEM and African and American STEM. There's a need for that. I'm not talking about that. Like that's a definite need for that. That's not what I'm talking about. No. Whoa. Come on. I'm on that paper too, Doc. Right? Read that thoroughly. Understand. You know, I understand. There's a need. That's not what I'm talking about.
No. I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying that when people hear African-centered, they think that we're excluding everybody else. So somebody in the chat said, well, I guess there ain't no white person in her class. That's not true.
Oh, yeah, that's just ridiculous.
But that's people don't understand the definition. They didn't look up the definition. They didn't try to understand. So that would be pseudo within itself. Like you got to educate yourself and not speak out of willful ignorance. That would be willful ignorance. Because you just assumed. You assume what you thought that meant instead of looking what it meant.
I guess ain't no white people.
We're here for today. Come on.
Two things.
Let's not play that.
I resigned from a 99.9% white school. In the first day of class, I tell them my motto, and it's African centered.
Right.
My teaching style, my teaching philosophy is African centered. I tell them that from the jump. I'm talking about 99.9, and they really Christian, but they not really. The school is Christian. Let's say that.
Man.
The program, whenever you're in like psychology or counseling like that, most people have different ways of looking at religion. Just to be honest with you, most people in those fields are not necessarily believers per se. But just to jump on what to piggyback off of what, let me say piggy because they was getting me about the pork, so we can say piggy. Jump off what Dr. Mayat was saying. Afrocentricity's goal this is from even Dr. Asante. Afrocentricity's goal is to liberate African people and by extension the world. So that's another aspect of Afrocentricity. It's not only about African people, but two, that's a major criticism though from people who somehow, from other people. And another thing, just jumping back on the idea that a lot of these quote unquote what we call a pseudo type people, I would argue that most of these people that we're talking about never study African-centered people.
Never.
They studied other people that you would say they're questionably. I can't even say Claude Anderson is African-centered for real. And like literally, we were talking about whether or not Dr. Ben or Dr. Clark is. You're saying that
we could debate that, right?
Yeah. But
I would say Dr. Claude Anderson is African-centered.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would say, and then we're debating whether Clark and Ben is. I would say, I don't even know how. Yeah, that one's But nonetheless, most of these people are studying other people that aren't. I mean, if you want to call Phil Valentine African-centered, yeah, but they're not really studying the people like Dr. Mayat brought up, like Baba, Dr. Malana Karenga, or Clarks or Asantes or any of these or Akbars or Carruthers, or they're not studying these folk. They're studying people that were not the progenitors of this type of information.
So I'll go with Sister Juju. I would call him pseudo Afrocentrist. That's what I would say. Phil Valentine. That's what I'm saying. That's what I would call him. I wouldn't call them, you know. But anyway, y'all, we got to run. We've been on here like 3 hours and 20 minutes. I got to get out of here and rest my voice. I have to lecture tomorrow for an hour. So I'm getting ready to get some tea. Do you know Carl? Because Carl, are you there?
Where you at, Carl?
Yo, hello.
Hey, Carl, did you want to add to the bill before we close out, man? All right. Ankh.
Hey, so look, like and subscribe.
I was going. My bad.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't think Afrocentrism is like pseudo. Or to the question on the live, I don't think it's pseudo, or like people look at it as pseudo. Like outside of the black community, that just some people that might be pseudo might be on the loudest in the room, but I don't think that like overall is pseudo. I think like we can get too deep into science and think that science is, the end all be all. I do think we can get too deep into the science side and think that's the answer, but science is not the answer either. It's putting boots on the ground and just doing it, raising up your community. It's definitely not science. I just want to put that out there.
How you gonna put the boots on the ground if you don't know what the hell you putting the boots on the ground for, or what?
Science ain't gonna tell you how to do it.
Yes, it will.
No, it won't.
And humans. Hold on, brother. For the record, humans develop religion and they develop science. They're both tools, bro. Religion contains your culture, and your culture, you will deify your culture through a deity. Okay, it give you the framework of where you was at, the area, the geography, mythology, folklore. That's your religion. You make things sacred to your totem. Yeah, it records your ancestry, sacred stories, music, song, dance. Science, okay, is organizing the facts. Let me say this, be clear. Science is simply, the definition is to know. Well, what is it that science wants to know? What is it that the scientists want to know? They want to know and understand the natural world, bro. So any group you develop will be developed in the natural world. And so our community have been too reliant on the one tool called religion and talking crazy about the one tool that they use to dominate you at the end of the day. They didn't use at the end, they come in with structures of intercontinental ships. They come in with all types of things and they use it against you. I'm saying it's 2025 now, man. We could do both. I'm not the one to say that don't have your religion. I'm saying is I don't quite understand being a Christian because that's not informing you of your ancestry. But okay, because I know that's all religion is a social cultural system, but that's fine. But you can't say no science. Nobody survives on planet Earth without science. I'm gonna say that to you. Anybody can survive on planet Earth without a religion. I can say that.
All right, well, this is what I'm about to say. I'm getting ready to get off. Y'all can get on.
Dr. Mike, can I say one thing?
Y'all can get on the community of skeptics and keep on going for another 3 hours. I got a lecture tomorrow, so I'm getting ready to rest my voice and get off.
Political science. That's all I want to say. Political science, brother. Political science is a social science and it's political science.
He has to. Look, before we do go, I do want to say this. Dr. Neely Fuller, or Brother Neely Fuller, I always refer to him as Dr. Neely Fuller. He passed on February the 1st. I'm not sure if anybody is aware of this.
Oh man,
but he did pass. Yeah, he did pass. And so we've been, shouting him out and just thanking him for his work. And then also in the chat, and I just Googled it, I got word. They said Irv Gotti actually passed. I know they said he had a stroke and he was brain dead at one point. But now there are articles everywhere. Page 6, New York Post, TMZ. They said Irv Gotti dead at 54. So Irv Gotti is out of here. So yeah. So anyway, y'all, just wanted to acknowledge them before we got off. Thank you so much to everyone on the panel for hopping on and just sharing your wisdom and your thoughts. I wholeheartedly appreciate that. And I appreciate everyone who tuned in and hung with us because we've been going strong for almost 3.5 hours and people have been hanging with us. And I appreciate that. But yeah, I do have to hop off, guys. I'm enjoying the conversation. Ankh knows that I'm usually like 90 minutes, 2 hours, but to stay on for 3.5 hours, I thoroughly enjoyed.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, I was like, it's past your bedtime. Sis.
Yes, this was phenomenal. Y'all know I'm in bed at 8:30, but this is phenomenal. Yeah, and I just appreciate the conversation, and I'm gonna go back through and listen to it because I think a lot of you all made really great points.
Chop it up, Doc, like you do. You know how you chop it up.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna chop it up and put it out there. But appreciate you all. Peace and love.
Appreciate you.
Peace.